Chapter 1201. Xiaoru did not even look at Jingjiang as she stared deeply at the man with her beautiful eyes. Master, she finally called out the name she had used for so many years, but her voice was trembling. Master, Jingjiang and I are innocent. I only thought of him as you. That's why I was with him. As if struck by lightning, Jingjiang was completely stunned. What did Ruer mean by that? All this time, she had always thought of herself as someone else. The man raised his eyes to look at Xiaoru. His expression was not as warm as water as when he was facing the fire. His eyes were so cold that it seemed as if they had frozen into ice. I have seen everything that you have done to the fire, and only someone like Jingjiang would believe your one-sided words. What's laughable is that you actually thought of such a stupid person as me. Master, I was wrong. Your disciple was really wrong. Xiaoru's body trembled violently as tears streamed down her face. Such a beautiful person was crying so pitifully. It was likely that many men would be moved. Unfortunately, the man's face was already expressionless, and his expression was as cold as ice. You can go. Don't appear in front of the fire again. I don't want you to disturb her. Xiaoru's eyes turned red, and her jealousy and anger spewed out. Master, fire's just a fox. What's so good about her? Why do you only dote on her? Bang! The man raised his hand and lifted Xiaoru's body, causing her to fall to the ground in a sorry state. A trace of blood flowed out of the corner of her mouth. She held her chest tightly with her hands as she looked at the man in despair. I've crippled your strength. Even if you continue to be reborn in the future, you won't be able to cultivate. This way, even if you take away the body of a peerless genius, you won't be able to pose any threat to the fire. Xiaoru lowered her head, her heart trembling even more at this moment. Master was so protective of the fire, afraid that he would hurt her. He did not hesitate to cripple his own strength. Perhaps she had been wrong from the very beginning. Back then, if she had not insulted the fire out of jealousy, her master would not have chased her away in a fit of anger. Miss, the man's gaze gradually turned to Yin Luofeng, and a warm smile once again appeared on his handsome face. Seeing that you are so protective of fire, then I can leave in peace. With a master like you, fire is very happy. Yin Luofeng pondered for a moment, then said, 20 years later, if you forget fire, then I will absolutely not let you off. The man smiled. I'm sorry, but you won't have the chance to let me go. As he spoke, his body began to become transparent, as if he would dissipate with a gust of wind. Aye! Fire anxiously raised his hand, wanting to grab the man's hand. The man also stretched out his big hand and held Fire's small hand. But just as they were about to shake hands, the man's soul completely disappeared. Fire was stunned. Her hands froze in the air, staring blankly at the direction the man disappeared in, unable to even shift her gaze away. She had missed him for so many years. Now that they had finally met, they had to separate again. Fire, if you want to cry, then cry. Yin Luofeng walked to Fire's side and patted her head comfortingly. Fire's eyes turned sour. She deeply held back her tears, and her small face was filled with determination. I believe that there will be a day when we meet again. That day, it wouldn't be long before it came. Yin Luofeng squinted his eyes, his gaze sweeping towards the Ling family head. He raised his eyebrows and said, You just said that you want to surround and kill the Ghost Emperor. Then do you know where the Ghost Emperor is? Chapter 1202. Patriarch Ling fiercely swallowed his saliva. It's Phoenix Mountain. Phoenix Mountain? Yin Luofeng retracted his gaze and said, Fire, let's go. After saying this, she left on her own. Fire also regained his senses and hurriedly followed behind Yin Luofeng. Ruer. Jingjiang ran in front of Xiaoru once again. His face was pale as he said, I don't mind if you treat me as someone else. Now, can you come back to the city lord's mansion with me? Scram! Xiaoru forcefully pushed Jingjiang away and stood up angrily. Why do you think I approached you before? I only treated you as my master. Otherwise, with your strength and talent, how could you win my favor? Jingjiang's face became even paler as he looked at Xiaoru in grief. That's not what you said before. You said that you love me as a person and nothing else. Xiao Ru sneered. That's because I treated you as my master and thought that one day you would become stronger. Who would have known that you weren't him at all? You will never be able to achieve his achievements. Jingjiang, stop dreaming. Why do you think I want you to go to the God-burying mountain? And why do you think I want you to cause trouble for the great clans? That's because I want you to break through in the face of danger. Jingjiang's body swayed. He shook his head, not daring to believe what his ears had just heard. Ruer, you're lying to me. You're not that kind of person. You must be lying to me. Lie to you? Xiaoru laughed coldly. Are you worthy? Her last 3 words were like the final blow to Jingjiang. His body finally could not hold on any longer and fell to the ground with a bang. It turned out that in Xiaoru's heart, he didn't even have the qualifications to be deceived by her. It was laughable that he had risked his life for her. Jingjiang laughed and suddenly burst into tears. The sound of his unbridled cries shook the entire Ling residence, causing people to sympathize with him. Xiaoru staggered towards the door, completely ignoring Jingjiang, who was behind her. Her pale face was filled with despair. Not only was she a good-for-nothing now, she would never be able to obtain her master's heart. What was the point of possessing someone else's body so many times? Why not just grow old quietly in this life, erase all her memories, and reincarnate as a human? Perhaps she wouldn't be in so much pain. At the foot of Phoenix Mountain was a simple and unadorned town. The originally quiet town was now filled with people. Hearing their conversations, one could tell that they were all here to encircle and kill the Ghost Emperor. At this time, in a corner of the town's tea house, the white-clothed girl gently took a sip of tea. She quietly listened to the noise around her, her beautiful face expressionless. It was as if she had nothing to do with it. Miss, did you come here alone to kill the Ghost Emperor? Suddenly, a voice came from the front. Yin Luofeng raised his eyebrows slightly and glanced at the man who spoke. The man was not polite at all. He sat down in front of Yin Luofeng and poured himself a cup of tea. His handsome face had a handsome smile on it. Why did this Ghost Emperor provoke so many people? Yin Luofeng's eyes flashed as he asked, why did so many people come to encircle and kill him? The man rubbed the back of his head. It seems that because the Ghost Emperor destroyed the Limitless sect, many people came to encircle and kill him. I just came to join in the fun and increase my strength. Haha. Chapter 1203. The Limitless Gate? Why would he want to destroy the Limitless Gate? Yin Luofeng took another sip of tea and asked. The man thought for a moment before replying, I heard that on that day, a relic had been unearthed. The Ghost Emperor and a few other great forces had rushed there upon hearing the news. However, the most precious treasure in the relic, the Heavenly Spirit Mirror, had been taken by the Ghost Emperor. As a result, a few great forces had chased after him in anger. Heavenly Spirit Mirror? If Yin Luofeng had not been sure at the beginning whether the Ghost Emperor of this mainland was Yun Shao or not, after hearing the man's words, he was 100% sure. The reason was none other than the fact that the Heavenly Spirit Mirror was still in her hands. Since the Ghost Emperor had obtained the Heavenly Spirit Mirror, it naturally belongs to him. What right does the other forces have to chase after him? Yin Luofeng laughed coldly and said sarcastically. The man was shocked by her words. He wanted to stop her, but it was too late. In an instant, everyone in the tea house had their eyes on Yin Luofeng's face. My apologies, my apologies. The handsome man hurriedly stood up and said apologetically, my friend here doesn't know the reason behind the incident. That's why she spoke without thinking. I hope that everyone can forgive her this once. Oomph. An old man from the seat in the middle of the tea house scoffed coldly and swept a cold glance at Yin Luofeng. Young lady, you should know what you can say and what you can't. The Ghost Emperor has always been in the wrong. So what if he had obtained the Heavenly Spirit Mirror? He doesn't even know how to use the Heavenly Spirit Mirror. He's just a dog in a manger. Furthermore, the Ghost Emperor doesn't belong to the West Continent. What right does he have to take something that belongs to the West Continent? That's right, the Ghost Emperor has committed a heinous crime. Even if the great forces chased after him, he shouldn't have killed the people of the Limitless Gate. Furthermore, The people of the Limitless Gate only chased after him. They didn't kill him. What right does he have to destroy the Limitless Gate? Miss, you're speaking up for the Ghost Emperor. Are you on the Ghost Emperor's side? If you're on the Ghost Emperor's side, we'll kill you right now. The man became more and more anxious. He continuously explained things to Yun Luofeng. Then, he faced the crowd and said apologetically, "She is my junior apprentice sister. She doesn't know the Ghost Emperor. This time, she is a genius. She came here with me and didn't understand the situation. Seniors, please don't make things difficult for her. For your sake, I'll let your junior sister go for now. If as a next time, don't blame me for being impolite." The old man snorted and said in a bad mood. In their eyes, the Ghost Emperor was the one who deserved to die, who allowed him to take away the Celestial Spirit Mirror. The Celestial Spirit Mirror belonged to the Western continent. As an outsider, what right did he have to take it away? Let me tell you a story. Yin Luofeng smiled at the man sitting in front of him and said, "There was once a murderer who was sentenced to death. The reason was that the murderer wanted to kill him. Out of self-defense, he accidentally killed the other party, which caused public anger. Do you know what those people said?" The man blinked curiously. "What do you mean?" "Those people said that even if the other party wanted to kill you, you shouldn't have killed him. Furthermore, you weren't killed by him. So what right did you have to kill him? So, I believe that if someone chases after you in the future, you can't fight back. You can only stand there and let them kill you." Yin Luofeng took another sip of tea and said nonchalantly, "Uft." The man spat out a mouthful of tea. If Yin Luofeng had not dodged in time, the tea would have been sprayed all over his face. Chapter 1204. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead, and his heart couldn't help but twitch a few times. At this moment, he could already see the angry gazes of those people. "Miss, don't you think you're going too far?" The old man slammed the table and stood up, looking coldly at Yin Luofeng. Yin Luofeng smiled. "I didn't mention the word Ghost Emperor in my words just now. I was just telling people a story. Could it be that my story is also bothering you?" She, Yin Luofeng, would eat anything and never suffer a loss. Those who fought with her would often be angered half to death. The old man's heart was filled with anger, but he couldn't find any fault with Yin Luofeng's words. That's right, she was only telling a story and didn't mention the Ghost Emperor. What reason could he use to cause trouble for her? Therefore, the old man could only sit down. The anger in his chest was unbearable, and his entire body emitted a sinister aura. "Bill." After getting the information he wanted from the man, Yin Luofeng threw an ingot of silver on the table and walked out of the tea house. "This girl is quite interesting." The handsome man picked up the cup of tea in front of him and took a sip. He looked at Yin Luofeng with interest. However, he could not tell that Yin Luofeng was not interested in him at all. Instead, he wanted to get some information out of him. Fire appeared out of thin air on the roof beam, swinging his legs, his bright eyes flashing with a curious light. "Master, when are we going to find Lord Yin Xiao?" Yin Luofeng absent-mindedly sat down and poured himself a cup of tea. He smiled faintly. "I still don't know where Yin Xiao is. When the time comes, I'll follow this group of people and I'll be able to see him." Fire blinked his eyes. "I'm curious. If Lord Yin Xiao saw the small tree, what kind of expression would he have?" Just as Fire finished speaking, Xiao Mo's figure suddenly appeared in front of Yin Luofeng. He was holding a few months old baby in his arms, and his young and tender face was filled with grievance. "When I see Yin Xiao, I'll throw the little tree to him. I don't want to accompany this brat all day long." Cluck, cluck, cluck. A bright smile appeared on the little tree's face as it giggled and opened its arms towards Yin Luofeng. "Mother! Mother!" Yin Luofeng was stunned. "The little tree can talk. He's only 6 months old, and he can already talk? And he spoke it so fluently?" Little Mo glanced at Yin Luofeng. "Xiao Shu is not a human. He is a spirit beast, so it's normal for him to speak now. Mommy, hug me." The sapling's voice was soft, just like a glutinous rice cake. It was fragrant and sweet, so cute that people couldn't help but take a bite. Yin Luofeng opened his arms and hugged Xiao Shu. "Little Mo, it's been hard on you. Let me take care of him from now on. Hearing this, little Mo was moved to tears. His hard work did not go to waste. His master began to feel sorry for him. The little tree smiled happily in Yun Luofeng's arms. Ever since he was born, Yin Luofeng had been busy running around and had never hugged him. Master! Fire jumped down from a beam, his childish face revealing a smile. I'm really looking forward to the day you and Lord Yin shall give birth to a child. She propped up her cheeks with her hand, her eyes glowing brightly. Your child must be a genius among geniuses. Yin Luofeng's hand, which was gently caressing the small tree, paused for a moment. This kind of thing, let nature take its course. Fire, little Mo, you two go back to the divine grimoire space to rest. We might have to leave tomorrow, and there will be a tough battle to fight. Chapter 1205. The next day dawned. The morning light was bright, and the streets were already filled with noise. The handsome man who had tried to strike up a conversation with Yin Luofeng yesterday had a flash of light in his eyes when he saw the beautiful young woman walking out of the inn. However, the young woman was carrying a few months old baby in her arms and a 6 or 7-year-old little girl in her hand. Under everyone's gaze, she slowly walked over. When he saw the chubby baby in a young woman's arms, the man's heart sank. Could it be that this beautiful woman was already married? Miss, these 2 children are. In the end, the man still walked up and asked. Yun Luofeng looked at the man. My little sister and my son. Son? The man was dumbfounded as if he was struck by lightning. He had been interested in Yun Luofeng yesterday and had wanted to pursue her. But now, reality had ruthlessly slapped him in the face. This young woman had actually told him that she had a son? The man's heart was cold. He felt a gust of cold wind blow in, so cold that he shivered. Since yesterday, Yin Luofeng had sensed that the man had deliberately tried to strike up a conversation with her. That was why she had deliberately claimed that Xiao Shu was her son. But she hadn't expected that this sentence would hurt little Mo. Master, you're unfair. Why did you never acknowledge my identity when I pretended to be your son? Would you have acknowledged it if it was Xiao Shu? Little Mo wanted to cry. The more he thought about it, the sadder he felt. He couldn't help but regret persuading Yin Luofeng to accept Xiao Shu. Now, Xiao Shu had already taken away Yin Luofeng's love. How could he not be sad? Hearing little Mo's aggrieved voice, Yin Luofeng lowered her eyes slightly. Her lips curved into a faint smile. Because I can't give birth to a son as old as you. Little Mo silently waited. He silently shrank in a corner and drew circles. Humph. The old man snorted and turned his head away. He didn't even look at Yun Luofeng. He was clearly disdainful of her bringing her son and little sister to fight against the Ghost Emperor. Ahem. The man coughed dryly. His handsome face once again recovered its handsome smile. I didn't introduce myself yesterday. My name is Duani Chen. I haven't asked for your name yet. Yin Luofeng's lips curved slightly. Yin Luofeng. Yin Luofeng? That's not a bad name. Yinjian Luofeng. Ha! The man laughed heartily. He walked to Yinjian Luofeng's side and said softly, That's right. This old man is an elder of the Boundless sect, one of the forces that pursued the Ghost Emperor. That's why he was so angry because of what you said yesterday. Yin Luofeng raised his eyebrows and looked at the elder. So that's how it is. Miss Yin, don't offend this old man. He's very strong. If you offend him, I'm afraid you'll have a hard time in the days to come. I know what to do. A cold light flashed across Yun Luofeng's eyes. In order to snatch the heavenly spirit mirror, these people had chased after Yun Xiao for thousands of miles. Just based on this point, she would not let them off. However, when her words fell into Duani Chen's ears, he thought that Yun Luofeng listened to his persuasion and unconsciously heaved a sigh of relief. That's good. Don't try to show off in front of these people. Otherwise, these shameless old things will definitely find trouble with you. Perhaps Duani Chen was afraid that the people from the Boundless sect would hear what he said, so he deliberately lowered his voice. Yin Luofeng turned to Duani Chen and asked, You also came here to encircle the Ghost Emperor. Chapter 1206. Duani Chen chuckled and scratched the back of his head. I said yesterday that I came to join in on the fun. I don't care what they want to do. I only want to go to Phoenix Mountain to raise my strength. Hearing this, Yin Luofeng did not say anything else. Her fingers lightly stroked Little Tree's hair, and the murderous intent in her darkened eyes intensified. Let's go. The old man from the Boundless sect swept his eyes over everyone present and overbearingly said, "This time, we will head to Phoenix Mountain and must kill the Ghost Emperor. We will avenge the innocent souls of the Boundless sect. Revenge, avenge the Boundless sect. Eradicate the Scourge, the Ghost Emperor." Everyone raised the weapons in their hands, their loud voices echoing through the streets of the small town. Did they really come to find Yun Shao to avenge the Boundless sect? Most likely, they were only here for the Void Mirror. Duani Qin. Yin Luofeng seemed to recall something and turned to him. "What is the Void Mirror you spoke of? You don't know about the Void Mirror?" Duani Qin was somewhat astonished. The Void Mirror is rumored to be a treasure once owned by the strong Ling Tian. It is said that one can obtain all of Ling Tian's inheritance inside the Void Mirror. It also allows one's strength to undergo a qualitative change. Inheritance? Yin Luofeng grew silent. She pondered for a long time, but did not know how to use the Void Mirror. The crowd was already heading toward Phoenix Mountain in a grandiose manner. Phoenix Mountain was not much smaller than God Burial Mountain, so it would not be that easy to find Yun Shao in such a large mountain. They spent the entire day on the road. Night fell. Everyone took out their tents and prepared to set up camp. Duani Qin looked at the unprepared Yin Luofeng and scratched the back of his head as he asked, "Miss Yin, I have extra tents here. Do you need them?" Yin Luofeng shook her head. "No need. I'll just spend the night under the tree." "All right." Seeing Yin Luofeng's refusal, Duani Qin did not say anything else. He glanced at the girl sitting on the tree and started setting up his tent in an open space. The flames of the bonfire were very bright, extremely bright against the girl's gorgeous face. Yin Luofeng handed Little Tree to Hua Hua and sat cross-legged under the tree. No one knew that at this moment, her soul had already entered the God code space. Master. Little Tree, who was squatting in the corner and drawing circles, saw Yin Luofeng and his eyes brightened. He hastily stood up. "Master, why are you here? Shaomo, have you thought of how to use this Void Mirror?" Yin Luofeng lightly furrowed her brows. "Next, the enemies I need to face are too powerful. If I can form a contract with the Void Mirror now, I will have the ability to stand on their side." Xiao Imo was silent. After a long time, he looked up at Yin Luofeng and said, "We've tried dripping blood to recognize its master, but it didn't work." But he paused for a moment before continuing. "At that time, you only used ordinary blood. Now, you could try using blood essence. However, it will take a long time to replenish a single drop of blood essence. I was afraid that if you failed, it would waste your blood essence, so I didn't tell you. Treat it like a living horse. Now, I will not let go of any method that can increase my strength." Yin Luofeng slightly raised her eyes, her gaze solemn. Chapter 12:07. She opened her hand, and a bronze mirror suddenly appeared in her hand. Then, she closed her eyes and pointed her finger at the celestial spirit mirror. Spiritual energy surged out of her body and gathered on her finger. A drop of bright red blood was gradually forced out of the gap between her fingers by the surging spiritual energy. With a plop, it fell into the celestial spirit mirror. Whoosh. In an instant, the white light intensified. The dazzling light enveloped the entire space of the divine grimoire and also blinded Yin Luofeng's eyes. Within the white light, she could faintly see a man walking towards her. The man's entire body was shrouded in white mist, so that his face could not be seen clearly. Only a cold and unique voice rang out within the white light. "Do you see the wind around you?" Within the white space, countless swift and fierce winds rushed about chaotically and blew against her body. Her skin immediately split open a bright red wound, and fresh blood flowed out. "Defeat it. If you defeat it, you can leave this place. If you can't, then you will be controlled here for the rest of your life." Yin Luofeng's expression suddenly changed greatly. Senior Ling Tian. I still have matters to attend to and must leave this place. Can you wait until I'm done before defeating the wind here? What answered her was silence. The white-robed man had already disappeared long ago. Only the surrounding wind brushed against her face and brought about a wave of pain. Seeing another gust of wind coming towards her, Yin Luofeng leaned to the side and narrowly dodged it. She hurriedly took out her long sword and fought against the wind in front of her with an anxious expression. However, the more anxious she was, the more mistakes she made. In a short while, her body was already riddled with wounds. Her snow-white dress was stained with fresh blood, turning it a bloody red. Even Yin Luofeng did not know how much time had passed. The surrounding wind became more and more violent, and there was no end to it. As time passed, Yin Luofeng became even more anxious. She only wanted to defeat the wind as quickly as possible. No, I can't continue like this. Yin Xiao is still waiting for me outside. I need to calm myself down and find the weakness of the wind. Yin Luofeng took a deep breath and slowly closed her eyes. Since the wind made her eyes blurry, she might as well use her ears to listen and determine their direction. The sound of the wind whistling was so clear that it made Yin Luofeng's mood even calmer. Finally, she sensed a faint breeze. As she was enveloped by the strong wind, she suddenly opened her eyes and slashed out a sword light in that direction. Pucci! The sword light broke through the layers of obstacles and hit the target. At this moment, all the wind in the surroundings dissipated and the entire space became quiet. The sword in Yin Luofeng's hand was pressed tightly against the ground. Sweat and blood mixed together, making her look rather wretched. Is that enough? Can you let me out now? Yin Luofeng asked as he wiped the sweat off his forehead. The previous test was to let you understand the importance of calming your mind during battle. The white-robed man appeared in front of Yin Luofeng once again. His slender finger pointed behind Yin Luofeng. There are thousands of soldiers there. Defeat them. Yin Luofeng's expression changed. I want to go out. What answered her was still silence. Yin Luofeng could only resign himself to his fate and turn around to fight with the army. Even in this celestial spirit mirror, there were still changes between day and night. As she watched the constantly changing days and nights, Yin Luofeng's heart had already calmed down from its initial anxiousness. Chapter 12:08. She could feel the passage of time. She also knew that she had been in the celestial spirit mirror for a month. Her top priority now was to quickly complete the task that the white-robed man had given her. Only then would she be able to leave and see Yin Xiao. Hence, there was nothing else on her mind at this moment. All she could think about was completing the task with all her might. However, the white-robed man seemed to have a bone to pick with her. After dealing with the army, he had given her one task after another. No matter how Yin Luofeng questioned him, the white-robed man did not say a word. Time had passed. Just as Yin Luofeng was so tired that she almost fell to the ground, the man's white robes appeared before her once again. You've completed the last task. From now on, this celestial spirit mirror belongs to you. The man slowly walked towards Yin Luofeng's side and gently tapped the young girl's forehead with his finger. As a reward for completing the task, I have a gift for you. In an instant, a powerful energy surged into Yin Luofeng's mind. Her head felt as if it was about to explode, and it was filled to the brim. This is my lifetime's worth of cultivation and battle experience. Now, I'm giving it all to you. I hope that you will become a legend of the new generation. Yin Luofeng's entire body trembled as she felt countless pieces of knowledge flowing through her mind. At the same time, the spiritual energy in her body churned continuously, absorbing all the spiritual energy from the outside world into her body. Boom! The burst of spiritual energy gave her a brand new feeling of comfort. However, this spiritual energy did not disappear after a breakthrough and continued to enter her body. A mid-stage Holy Spirit cultivator, a high-level Holy Spirit cultivator. The surging energy only stopped when she reached the high-level Holy Spirit cultivator. Yin Luofeng knelt down in the direction of the white-robed man and kowtowed a few times. She then rose to her feet and quickly headed towards the outside world. This white-robed man had imparted his lifetime's worth of experience to her, so he could be considered as her master. It was only right for her to kowtow to her master. Remember, this celestial spirit mirror can protect your life when you're in danger. You must never hand it over to anyone. You must remember this. You must remember this. The man's voice seemed to pierce through the clouds and echoed from a faraway place, causing Yin Luofeng to quicken her pace. Feng Huang Mountain. Yin Luofeng slowly opened his eyes and saw a familiar face. Duani Chen was delighted and hurriedly said, "Miss Yin, you're awake?" Hearing this, Yin Luofeng hurriedly stood up and said anxiously, "Where are the others? I've been asleep for 3 months. Could it be that they've already 3 months?" Duani Chen looked at Yin Luofeng strangely. "If you can sleep for 3 months, I'll admire you. However, your sleep was really long. You slept for 3 days straight." 3 days? Yin Luofeng paused. She clearly remembered that she stayed in the celestial spirit mirror for 3 months. Why did Duani Chen say it was only 3 days? Fire, on the other hand, was not anxious at all. She, who had once felt pity for Yin Luofeng, naturally knew that within these 3 days, Yin Luofeng would not be in any danger. Not good. Yin Luofeng's expression changed. They should be surrounding the Ghost Emperor by now. Duani Chen, take me to them immediately. Yin Xiao, wait for me. No matter what this time, I will fight shoulder to shoulder with you. All right, Duani Chen nodded. Let's go. Chapter 1209. At the peak of Feng Huang Mountain, the man stood with his hands behind his back and his black robes fluttered in the wind. He sensed the footsteps behind him, but did not turn around. His silver mask reflected a dazzling light under the sunlight. "Ghost Emperor, we've finally found you." The elder from the Boundless sect panted as he stepped forward and glared angrily at the man. He gritted his teeth and said, "Keep running if you can. You've killed so many people from the Boundless sect and even destroyed the entire Limitless sect. It's time for me to settle this score with you." The man slowly turned around and stared coldly at the crowd in front of him with his deep, black eyes. At this moment, his aura surged out. It was cold and murderous. He was so powerful that he was like a king who had descended upon the world, looking down on all living beings. Scram! His thin lips parted and his hoarse and deep voice reverberated in everyone's hearts. This man had always been this powerful and cold. He had never placed anyone in his eyes. Yet, it was this man who made everyone gnash their teeth in hatred and want nothing more than to kill him. "Ghost Emperor, hand over the celestial spirit mirror, and I'll spare your life." The elder from the Boundless sect's eyes darkened as he said eerily. The man's cold gaze slowly landed on the elder from the Boundless sect. For some reason, the elder felt his heart tremble the moment he met the man's black eyes. It was as if a hand was strangling his neck fiercely, making it extremely difficult for him to breathe. "Let's attack together and kill the Ghost Emperor." The elder from the Boundless sect waved his hand and said with a gloomy look in his eyes, "No matter how powerful he is, he's only one person. There are so many of us. Why should we be afraid of him?" 2 fists were no match for 4 legs. No matter how powerful the Ghost Emperor was, he could not possibly be a match for so many of them. Whoosh! After the immeasurable sect elder had spoken, the experts behind him all surged towards Yun Xiao and surrounded him in the middle. However, no one dared to act rashly. They were afraid of the man's cold and murderous aura and did not dare to take the lead. They were afraid that they would be reduced to nothing by the man's murderous aura. In the past, if they had heard someone say that a truly powerful cultivator could kill people with murderous aura alone, they would have laughed out loud. But now, from the Ghost Emperor's body, they felt a killing intent that was enough to take a life. This man was so powerful that just by standing beside him, one would feel a sense of oppression, and even breathing would become difficult. The wind howled as the man's black robe fluttered in the wind. The mask on his face reflected a cold light, and his aura was cold. His black eyes were like a deep pool, so deep that it made one's hair stand on end. Seeing that no one dared to act rashly, the old man from the immeasurable sect gritted his teeth and charged towards Yin Luofeng. In an instant, a rainbow-like aura erupted and blasted towards Yun Xiao with an unbreakable aura. Bang! Yun Xiao gently raised his hand and grabbed the old man's fist tightly. A powerful wind wave spread out from the two of them and raised a cloud of dust which flew in the wind. The old man tried to withdraw his fist with all his might, but he found that his fist seemed to be deeply immobilized. No matter how much strength he exerted, his fist did not move an inch. He was greatly shocked and quickly raised his head to look at the man standing in front of him. He could not help but take a deep breath. Yin Xiao, I never thought that your power would increase again in such a short period of time. But so what? It's not just the boundless sect who have come today. There are other powerful cultivators from the West Continent as well. You're destined to not escape this calamity. Haha. Chapter 12:10. He laughed maniacally. His maniacal laughter echoed throughout the entire mountain peak. Boom! The man's power penetrated his body, and he was sent flying. The spiritual energy in his chest surged wildly, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. Go kill him! The other cultivators looked at each other. Perhaps the boundless sect's elders' actions had given them courage. They all attacked Yun Xiao in an instant. Facing the whirlwind of attacks, Yun Xiao's aura did not change. His deep, abyss-like eyes became even colder. It was so cold that it made one's heart instantly fall into the deepest depths of hell. Fresh blood spread from the foot of the mountain peak. Even the sunset glow on the horizon was like fresh blood, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. The man's black robe had long been dyed red with fresh blood. The light on his mask became even colder. This time, there were tens of thousands of people who had come on this expedition. Other than the boundless sect and the other major forces, there were also people who claimed to be righteous. They only had one goal, and that was to kill the Ghost Emperor. In the West Continent, the relationship between the major forces was very complicated. All kinds of open and secret struggles were normal. However, no matter how they fought internally, they were united against external enemies. The Ghost Emperor had not offended them, but he had destroyed the Limitless Sect. He had destroyed the powerful Limitless Sect just like that. This man was too terrifying. In order to prevent their own forces from being massacred by this man in the future, they could only join forces and kill him. The more the man killed, the colder he became. In this world, only Yun Luofeng could move him. The others were divided into 3 types. The first type were people Yun Luofeng loved. The second type were strangers. And the third type were these enemies in front of him. Why should he be merciful to his enemies? He would kill those who should be killed and destroy those who should be destroyed. He would never be merciful. We can't go on like this. The boundless sect elder wiped the blood and sweat from his forehead. A cold light flashed in his eyes. We don't have enough people. With the Ghost Emperor's power, we will all die in his hands sooner or later. So, Lady Zillian, please. A purple-clothed woman slowly walked out from that group of people. This woman could be considered beautiful, provided that there were no scars on her face. TSK, although I can't see the Ghost Emperor's face, but his figure is not bad. It would be a pity to kill him. The woman in purple licked her lips and narrowed her eyes with greed. Do we really have to kill him? It would be great if he could become my pet boy to warm my bed. The corners of the boundless sect's old man's mouth twitched violently. Although Violet Lotus looked like a young woman in her 20s, in reality, she was already over 50 years old. However, the cultivation method she practiced was rather special, which was why she could maintain such a youthful appearance. It was also because of her special cultivation method that she needed to harvest yang to nourish her yin. Any man that she fancied would not be able to escape her clutches. The purple-robed woman's fingers gently stroked her lips as the desire in her eyes grew stronger and stronger. Compared to looks, she preferred a man with a perfect body. Based on this man's figure, his skills in bed must be pretty good. It would be a pity to kill him. She had yet to properly enjoy this man's power. Lady Zillian, said the boundless sect elder helplessly. The Ghost Emperor is not someone who can be easily controlled. If you want to obtain him, you will definitely suffer the consequences of your own actions. Hence, we can only ask you to help us kill him. Chapter 12:11. Zillion smiled delicately. I'm just joking. I don't know what's more important. Even if it's a pity, I'll still kill him. With Zillion's assurance, the elder from the Boundless sect smiled. The reason why they dared to seek revenge on the Ghost Emperor on Fenghuang Mountain was because of Zillion's trump card. Zillion was no match for the Ghost Emperor in terms of strength. Unfortunately, Zillion's true strength did not lie in her own strength. Suddenly, Zillion flipped her palm, and a jade flute appeared in her palm. The jade flute glowed like a piece of jade. It was so beautiful that no one could look away. A beast taming flute? The crowd was shocked when they saw the jade flute. The elder from the Boundless sect called her Lady Zillion. Could she be the sect leader of the beast-taming sect, Qin Zillion? If Zillion called herself the second best beast-taming expert in the world, then no one would dare to call themselves the first. In the 7 continents, no one would be a match for Zillion. The beast-taming sect? The beast-taming sect from the Central Continent? Oh my God, the elder from the Boundless sect actually invited a strong cultivator from the Central Continent. The crowd, who had been filled with despair, was filled with joy when they saw Zillion. As long as Zillion made her move, there was no doubt about this battle. Just as everyone was discussing, Zillion had already placed the jade flute to her lips. A beautiful melody flowed from her lips and slowly flowed through the silent mountain peak. The cries of hundreds of beasts. At this moment, all the spiritual beasts on Fenghuang Mountain roared, as if in response to Zillion's call. In the Western Continent, Fenghuang Mountain was the most dangerous place after Hidden God Mountain. Of course, compared to the crazy spiritual beasts on God Burying Mountain, the spiritual beasts on Fenghuang Mountain rarely attacked humans, unless humans provoked them first or robbed them of the medicinal herbs they were guarding. However, now that they heard Zillion's call, the spiritual beasts rushed over. Countless birds circled in the sky and let out crisp cries. Perhaps all the spiritual beasts on Fenghuang Mountain were rushing over at the foot of the mountain. The sound of galloping could be heard from behind. It came from afar and quickly arrived behind Yin Luo Feng and the others. The moment Duan Yichen turned around, he saw this shocking scene. He hurriedly said, "Miss Yin, be careful." Yin Luo Feng frowned slightly. Before she could understand what was happening, the spiritual beast had already passed by them and were quickly making their way towards the top of the mountain. "You scared me to death." Duan Yichen wiped the sweat off his forehead and exhaled softly. "I thought that the spiritual beasts on Fenghuang Mountain had gone mad." In an instant, Yin Luo Feng seemed to have realized something. Her beautiful face suddenly darkened. Not good. After saying that, she turned into a ray of light and dashed forward in the blink of an eye. "Master, wait for me." In his anxiety, Fire shouted out these 2 words without hesitation. At the same time, her figure also turned into a beam of light and quickly disappeared. "Master?" Duan Yichen was stunned. Isn't this little girl Miss Yun's younger sister? Why was he calling her master? Also, this little girl seems to be only about 6 years old. She's so fast that even I can't catch up. After thinking for a long time, Duan Yichen still could not understand this logic. Afraid that something would happen to Yin Luo Feng, he hurriedly chased after the 2 of them. The mountain peak towered into the clouds, and white mist swirled about. Chapter 12:12. Countless spiritual beasts kicked up a cloud of dust as their horses galloped. The eyes of the spiritual beasts were filled with savagery as they charged towards Yun Shao under Zelia's command. At that moment, the entire mountain peak was filled with all sorts of birds, beasts, and powerful human cultivators. Below them was a group of spiritual beasts that were running nonstop. From afar, it was a spectacular sight. It just so happened that the only person standing opposite of these people was a callous man. He was facing so many enemies on his own, yet he showed no fear. Yin Shao. However, at that moment, a familiar voice rang out in front of him, causing the man's body to stiffen. His gaze, which had landed on the group of spiritual beasts, slowly shifted away. His eyes, which were as deep as a serene lake, stared at the woman in white who was rushing towards him from the foot of the mountain. His gaze, which was like a 10,000-year-old iceberg, melted the moment he saw the young girl. Within his deep and serene black eyes, only the young girl's silhouette could be seen clearly. It grew larger and larger, closer and closer. One glance was enough to last a lifetime. At that moment, the man forgot about the clamor around him and the spiritual beast charging towards him. In his entire world, there was only her left, Yin Xiao. Yun Luofeng's peerlessly beautiful face changed when he saw the spiritual beast charging towards Yun Xiao. His voice carried a sense of urgency. Fortunately, Yun Xiao returned to her senses at the last moment. With a loud crash, the spiritual beast at the very front collapsed under Yun Xiao's power. It bled from its 7 orifices and its bones were shattered. At this moment, Yin Luofeng had already made his way through the group of spiritual beasts and reached Yun Xiao's side. When the two of them looked at each other, they only had eyes for each other. "You've come." The man gently opened his mouth, and his hoarse voice rang out in the noisy battlefield. "Yes, I've come." After being separated for so many months, she had finally come. "I've come to follow in your footsteps and become a woman who can fight by your side. I've been waiting for you." He had been waiting for her to come to this mainland. However, he never thought that she would arrive so quickly. It had exceeded his expectations. Seeing that the other spiritual beasts were about to pounce on her, Yin Xiao waved his hand once again, and several beams of energy shot out at the same time. Before the spiritual beasts could dodge, they collapsed into a pool of blood. "Great, so you really are in cahoots with the Ghost Emperor." The instant the boundless sex old man saw Yun Luofeng, he understood something and flew into a great rage as he said, "No wonder you would speak up for him. Turns out that the two of you are actually a pair of adulterous dogs." Yin Zhao's brows furrowed as he stared coldly at the immeasurable sect elder. His aura spread out, covering the sky and earth. Yun Luofeng raised the corners of her lips as she stood next to Yun Xiao. An evil smile hung on her face as her eyes, which were as calm as an ancient well, turned towards the boundless sect elder. "That's right, the Ghost Emperor is my man. Since I'm here today, I want to see who dares to touch my man." His white robe fluttered in the strong wind. The young girl raised her eyebrows. Her domineering voice reverberated throughout the entire mountain peak. At this moment, fire had already rushed to Yun Luofeng's side. She was still hugging the small tree in her hands, and her eyes were filled with anger as she coldly stared at the crowd in front of her. Zillian had already stopped playing her flute. Because of this, the spiritual beasts that were attacking Yun Xiao stopped as they looked at each other in confusion. They didn't know why they were in this place. Yun Xiao stood quietly beside Yun Luofeng, although he didn't need her protection with his strength. But he just liked to see her domineering appearance when she stood up for him. Chapter 12:13. She couldn't get enough of this look. Rumor has it that the Ghost Emperor is cruel and merciless, bloody and murderous. I've always wanted to know what kind of person the woman who could subdue the Ghost Emperor is. Zelia narrowed her eyes, a smile on her lips. Yun Luofeng smiled evilly. "Now that you've seen it, how do you feel?" "That's all." Zelia's smile was filled with disdain, as if she didn't care about Yun Luofeng at all. He was just a holy spirit. To an ordinary person, a holy spirit was powerful enough. But in front of her, it was nothing. "You old witch, what nonsense are you spouting?" Fire glared at Zelia angrily. "You're just an old witch in her 60s or 70s. How dare you look down on my master?" Zelia's eyes turned cold. This little girl could tell her age? What made her even angrier was that she had insulted her as an old witch. However, after seeing Yun Luofeng at the side, Zelia suppressed her anger. The smile on her face didn't weaken at all. TSK, little girl, I'm afraid your body won't be able to withstand the torment of the Ghost Emperor. How about I take your place?" Yun Luofeng narrowed her eyes. If she still couldn't feel Zelia's longing for Yun Xiao, then she would have lived 2 lives in vain. "Leave it to me." Yin Xiao lowered her eyes and whispered into Yun Luofeng's ear. Yin Xiao, I've come here to fight alongside you, not to rely on your protection. Yin Luofeng turned to the man beside him. So, I'll leave the humans to you, the spiritual beasts. I'll deal with them. Yin Xiao did not hesitate and nodded. All right. He believed in Yun Luofeng. Since she had made such a request, then she would definitely do it. Umph. Zelia scoffed coldly, the smile on her lips curling into a mocking arc, clearly not taking Yun Luofeng seriously at all. The tune she played was not as beautiful as before. Instead, it became extremely sharp, like a sharp sword piercing through the intestines, killing without leaving a trace. Roar! Countless birds and beasts seemed to have gone mad, their eyes turning blood red as they charged towards Yun Luofeng. In an instant, dust flew and covered the entire mountain peak. Yin Xiao quickly finished them off. I can stop these spiritual beasts. Yun Luofeng's eyes darkened as he spoke. All right. Yin Xiao glanced at Yun Luofeng, then turned his cold eyes towards the crowd in the sky. His robes fluttered in the wind, giving off an austere aura. Quick, quick, protect Miss Zillian. The expression of the old man from the Boundless sect changed drastically as he hurriedly instructed. In an instant, everyone surrounded Violet Lotus, protecting her in the middle so that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Yin Zhao's aura was too terrifying and his cold eyes were filled with killing intent. Just meeting his gaze would make one tremble in fear. Go! An expert gritted his teeth and took the lead to charge towards Yin Xiao. At the same time, the others also launched their attacks. Killing sounds could be heard from the blood-stained mountain peak once again. Countless spirit beasts swarmed towards Yun Luofeng with their sharp claws and fangs. Anyone could foresee that under the onslaught of so many ferocious spiritual beasts, Yun Luofeng would not even have a corpse left. Ghost Emperor. Zelia gently narrowed her eyes, and her smile was ambiguous. A jade flute spun around her fingertips, causing her to pause for a moment. Her tongue licked her lips, displaying her full charm. I really can't help but admire your foresight. You found such a weak woman. She will soon die under the claws and fangs of the spiritual beasts, and your fate will be just as miserable. Of course, if you're willing to be my man, perhaps I can spare your life. Chapter 12:14. Lady Zillian. The old man's expression changed as he said, You can't be serious, right? Zillian didn't even look at the old man. Her smile was seductive as she looked straight at Yin Xiao. How is it? Isn't this condition very beneficial to you? No matter what, with my beauty, you won't lose out. To be honest, if it wasn't for the fact that I wanted to see what kind of person the Ghost Emperor was, I would have rejected the Boundless Sect's invitation. You should feel honored. Shameless. Fire sneered as he looked at Zillian. His soft voice carried a hint of disdain. You think you can be considered beautiful? Even one of my master's toes is better than yours. Indeed, even though this Violet Lotus was beautiful, she had a scar on her face. This scar destroyed her beauty. However, what Zillian hated the most in her life was people insulting her for being ugly. You're courting death. Her eyes turned cold as she once again placed the jade flute to her lips. The slowed-down spiritual beasts once again sped up and quickly arrived in front of Yun Luofeng and Fire. At this moment, no one saw that the fat baby in Fire's arms was not crying because of the spiritual beasts. Instead, he started giggling. His fair and tender little arms waved in the air, and a bright smile appeared on that young and tender little face. The fat baby's smile was as if he had obtained a new toy. He was very happy. Xiao Shu, you stay here. I want to fight side by side with Master. Fire threw the small tree on the ground and walked in front of Yun Luofeng. She raised her chin and looked down at the spiritual beasts that were rushing towards her. Do you think a bunch of small animals like you can hurt my master? Now, I will show you who is the true king of spiritual beasts. Hua! Flames ignited from Fire's body, and countless flames covered the entire sky, making the mountain peak look completely red. 8 tails appeared behind her. These 8 tails represented the source of her power. Thus, People could feel the surging power in her body. It was so strong that it was unparalleled. Among spiritual beasts with high bloodlines could suppress ordinary spiritual beasts. Even though the spirit beasts were under Violet Lotus's control, they were still stunned, and fear could be seen in their eyes. Unfortunately, Violet Lotus immediately controlled their consciousness and ordered them to rush towards Yun Luofeng. Just as Duan Yichen ran towards the mountain peak, he saw Fire, who was enveloped in flames, especially the 8 fiery red tails behind Fire, which were clearly reflected in his eyes, scaring him so much that he almost fainted on the spot. During this period of time, the little girl who had been with him day and night was actually a spirit beast? What could be more shocking than this? Fortunately, he did not do anything to anger Yun Luofeng and Fire. Otherwise, who knew if this spiritual beast would flip out on the spot and kill him? The more Duan Yichen thought about it, the more relieved he felt. But even so, he could not calm the shock in his heart. On the battlefield, the girl's white clothes were stained with blood, and her fine black hair fluttered in the wind. She held a long sword in her hand, and her evil eyes were filled with killing intent. Blood splashed out from the body of the spiritual beast and splashed onto her face. However, she seemed to have made up her mind and continued to charge forward. Zilian's face darkened. In her eyes, Yun Luofeng should have been buried in the horde of spiritual beasts in the next second. She didn't know that she could actually use her left arm to carve out a path of blood for herself. No, if this goes on, we won't be a match for them either. We have to get rid of these people as soon as possible. Chapter 1215. Zilian looked at the jade flute that was getting closer and closer to her, and a look of anxiety finally flashed across her eyes. Suddenly, her gaze landed on the small tree that Fire had thrown onto the ground, and a hint of joy flashed across her eyes. At this moment, Zilian had never thought about why Fire would be at ease and throw the small tree on the ground. She had never thought that the small tree, who was clearly a child, would not only not cry or make a fuss in the face of such a scene, but would instead be giggling nonstop. It was precisely because she did not think much that she did something that she regretted bitterly. Zilian once again played the jade flute. This time, the direction of the jade flute was no longer pointed at Yun Luofeng. Her sharp gaze swept across the small tree that was crawling on the ground, and the corners of her lips curled into a cruel smile. "Miss Yin, be careful of your child," Duan Yichen shouted loudly, his eyes flashing with anxiety. He had arrived late and did not know what had happened. He only knew that Yun Luofeng had started fighting with these people. But these people did not even want to let her child go. Yun Luofeng did not seem to hear Duan Yichen's words. He continued to deal with the enemy in front of him, completely unworried about the safety of the small tree. Cluck, cluck, cluck. The small tree waved its white and tender arms, giggling as it waved at the spirit beasts that were pouncing towards it. Its cute little face was brimming with a bright smile. Roar! A male lion pounced in front of the small tree, opened its bloody mouth wide, and bit down on the small tree's fleshy arm. It's over. Duan Yichen hurriedly covered his eyes. He could not bear to see the tragic scene of the small tree being bitten to death by the spirit beasts. But in the end, he could not help but open a crack. The expected scene did not appear. The small tree was not torn apart by the spirit beasts, but it suddenly disappeared. When he was looking for the small tree in surprise, he suddenly realized that the little fellow that had been crawling on the ground just now had unknowingly sat on the head of the lion. Because the lion's fur was too exuberant, it covered the small tree's body, so he did not notice it at first. It was only when a fleshy arm stretched out from the thick fur that he discovered the existence of the small tree. In the entire mountain, other than the roars of the spirit beasts, there were no other sounds of humans. Zilian was stunned. She stared at the small tree with her mouth agape. She fiercely rubbed her eyes, not daring to believe what she was seeing. How is this possible? He's just a kid. Zelia's face was pale, and even her voice was trembling. Everything in front of her was beyond her imagination. She had lived for decades, but she had never seen such a supernatural scene. The image of the sapling riding on the lion's back fell into everyone's eyes. It was as if they saw a mouse standing on a cat's paw. Kikik. The little tree's crisp laughter was so obvious and deafening amidst the roars of the spirit beasts. Roar. The male lion flew into a rage and violently swung the small tree's body, trying to shake it off its head. Xiao Shu's laughter disappeared. His eyebrows were tightly knitted, and his expression did not look too good. He was angry. Once the sapling grew, the consequences would be dire. He staggered up from the lion's head and angrily slapped the lion's head with his little hand. As the lion's fur was too thick, he could not feel the little palm of the little tree, but the others were shocked by the sapling's behavior. Newborn calves are not afraid of tigers. A little boy who had not even grown all his teeth dared to ride on the lion's back and even hit it. Chapter 12:16. Zillion came back to her senses and played the jade flute once again. Thus, the spiritual beasts that had been frozen in place all began to attack the small tree. The small tree was so angry that its little face turned green. It raised its fleshy arm and stretched its palm towards the sky. With a loud bang, countless vines drilled out from the ground. In an instant, they had bound the legs of the spiritual beasts and hung them in the air. This was not the end. How could hanging them up quell the anger in the small tree's heart? Thus, he once again made the vine stretch out, turning it into a long whip, and ruthlessly lashed the bodies of the spiritual beasts. Silence. The entire world had returned to peace at this moment. Zillion's hand loosened in fright, and the jade flute fell to the ground. Her beautiful face was deathly pale as she stared in horror at the arrogant small tree. Fire sneered and said with his hands on his hips, "I really don't know where you got the courage to attack the small tree. Since I dare to throw the small tree on the ground, you should have guessed that it is not something you can afford to offend." Zillion bit her lips. Her pale face was filled with despair. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. The other party was just a child. How could he defeat so many spiritual beasts in an instant? She did not believe it. She did not believe that anyone in this world would be born with this kind of ability. At this moment, the man in the black robe had already dealt with the people in front of him and appeared in front of her with a murderous aura. Zillion swallowed with difficulty. Her gaze gradually moved up, and when she saw the man's cold mask, cold sweat trickled down from her forehead. Ghost. Ghost Emperor Boom. The man's power was filled with killing intent and landed heavily on her chest. At this moment, she felt the sound of her dantian shattering, and the spiritual power in her body also flowed out. "You lack men." The man's eyes were cold, and his voice was cold and merciless. "The brothel lacks you. You lack men. The brothel lacks you." This man would never waste a word with insignificant people. In one sentence, he had clearly stated his intentions. "Don't you lack men? There are many men who visit the brothel. That place is very suitable for you." Fear flashed across Zillion's eyes, and she hurriedly crawled up from the ground. She knelt in front of Yin Xiao and said with a pale face, "Ghost Emperor, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. I won't dare to join forces with others to deal with you in the future. Please let me go this time. I promise I'll do anything to repay you." At a time like this, how could she still dare to show off? If he wanted to protect himself, he could only desperately apologize. Bang! Just as Zillion was about to kneel towards the man waved his sleeve and sent her flying. Violet Lotus spat out a mouthful of blood, her complexion becoming increasingly pale. She regretted it. He regretted dealing with Yin Xiao. This man was not someone they could deal with at all. "Lord Yin Xiao," Fire winked at Yin Xiao, "leave the people here to me. I guarantee that I will complete the mission with the small tree and not leave a single one of them alive. You and Master can go to the world of two people." She was determined to be a spiritual beast that shared her master's worries. Now that her master and Yin Xiao had not seen each other for so long, they definitely needed to be alone. As for the aftermath, it was enough for her to do it. Yin Xiao walked towards Yin Luofeng. When he saw the small tree giggling at the side, he was unable to shift his gaze away. "He is our son." "Don't blame Yin Xiao for misunderstanding Yin Luofeng. Even though this small tree was only a few months old, he could still see his own shadow on him, especially his eyebrows. They were extremely similar. Chapter 12:17. So, he concluded that Xiao Shu was his and Yun Luofeng's child. Yun Luofeng's expression darkened. How long have we been apart? Yin Xiao thought about it. More than half a year. How long does pregnancy take? 10 months. Yun Luofeng smiled. Then do you think he's our son? Yin Xiao was silent for a moment. Then who is he? What do you think? Yin Luofeng raised his brows. He looks so much like you. Then what do you think his identity is? Hearing this, Yin Xiao immediately became nervous. He stared at Yin Luofeng uneasily. I have nothing to do with him. All these years I've been by your side. Apart from you, I've never interacted with anyone else, and my first woman was also you. Feng you have to believe me. I really have nothing to do with him. Duan Yichen was just about to walk towards Yin Luofeng when he heard their conversation. His mouth twitched, and he looked at Yin Xiao speechlessly. The rumored ghost emperor was naturally an idiot? Let's go. Yin Luofeng narrowed his eyes and pulled on Yin Xiao's clothes. I'll settle things with you when we get back. Feng you really have to believe me. I don't know him. Yin Xiao was so anxious that his forehead was full of sweat. He was afraid that Yin Luofeng would misunderstand him. Yin Luofeng glanced at him. I adopted Xiao Shu. As for his identity, I'll tell you later. Right now, I want you to settle the score. You faced so many dangers alone. Why didn't you tell me everything? Why didn't you let Qin Yuan tell me? Yin Xiao froze. His black eyes stared at Yin Luofeng. His voice was hoarse and low. I was afraid you'd be worried. So, I want to settle things with you first. Yin Luofeng glared at him. Fine. If it can appease your anger, you can punish me however you want. Yin Luofeng narrowed his eyes. A dangerous arc flashed across his eyes. Then let's settle things in bed now. Settle things in bed? Duan Yichen was confused. This was the first time he saw someone settle things in bed. Miss Yin was indeed different from ordinary women, domineering and shameless. From afar, he could vaguely hear the conversation between the two men. I'll go up, you go down. This was an evil voice, incomparably tyrannical. All right, the voice was filled with doting and indulgence. I'll make sure you can't get out of bed for 3 days and 3 nights. Don't worry. With my physique, even if it's 3 months, I can still get out of bed. Duan Yichen almost fell to the ground. Miss Yun's domineering attitude was a little too much, right? He actually said that he would make the Ghost Emperor unable to get out of bed for 3 days. However, the Ghost Emperor was very tolerant and indulgent towards her. He could see that the man spoiled her to the bone and allowed her to do whatever she wanted. Duan Yichen's heart ached. It was rare for him to fall in love with a woman at first sight. Unfortunately, this woman already had a husband. Her husband was so outstanding that no one could compare to him. Then what hope did he have? Duan Yichen sighed. Right now, he could only give Yin Luofeng his most sincere blessings. Run! The experts who had come to encircle Yin Xiao turned around and fled when they saw the two of them leave. Fire's sharp eyes glanced at the movements of those people and scolded sternly. If you want to escape, you have to see if you have the ability to do so. Xiao Shu, these people want to kill your parents. How do you plan to punish them? Xiao Shu was not an ordinary human. He had evolved from a tree. Although he had only been born for a few months, his mind was already like that of a child. Chapter 12:18. Kill. Hearing Fire's words, Xiao Shu turned his head to look at the people who had turned around and left, and a soft voice came out from his mouth. Yes, those who bullied their parents deserve to die. Bang! Once again, countless vines rose from the ground. Without waiting for those people to escape, the vines had already bound their bodies, preventing them from moving. Xiao Shu, beat them to death. All right, don't beat that woman blowing the flute to death. Your father said that he would sell her to a brothel. Doesn't she like to please men? Then let her do as she wishes. Fire placed his hands on his hips and gave the order. The fat baby raised a small hand, and countless vine whips appeared in front of those people. Then, under their terrified gazes, the whips fiercely lashed out. Pa pa pa. Within the entire mountain peak, only the sound of the whip slicing through the air and the heart-wrenching roars of those people could be heard. Just you wait. There are many people who want to kill the Ghost Emperor. One day he will die in the hands of a righteous man. Ha ha. The old man from the boundless sect laughed crazily. His eyes glowed with a blood-red light, and he had already fallen into a state of madness. The more he scolded, the faster the whip struck, until the old man from the boundless sect was unable to say a single word. Oh, I almost forgot. Fire narrowed his eyes and shot a dangerous gaze towards Duan Chen. You are also in cahoots with him, here to subdue Lord Yun Shao. Duan Chen's forehead was drenched in sweat, and he laughed embarrassedly. I'm just here to join in the fun. It has nothing to do with me. You can continue. Fire stroked his chin and slightly raised his head. Seeing that your nature is not bad, I will spare you, but you are not allowed to speak of what happened today. All right, I promise I won't say anything. Duan Chen hurriedly nodded and swore. No, Fire shook his head. I don't trust you. If you reveal mine the little tree's identity, Master and Lord Yin Shao will be hunted down by even more people. So take this pill. Duan Chen was startled. Looking at the pill that Fire handed over to him, he frowned slightly. What is this? This pill will make you forget what happened in the past few days. Forget what happened in the past few days? That also meant he would forget Yin Luo Feng? For some reason, when Duan Chen heard this, his heart throbbed violently. He raised his hand, but he couldn't bring himself to take the pill. I promise not to tell anyone. Is that really not okay? He raised his head, looked at Fire, and said. Fire blinked his eyes. We have not known each other for long. I do not know your identity, nor do I know your character. How can I trust you? Duan Chen laughed bitterly. He picked up the pill that Fire handed over and gently closed his eyes. Since that was the case, these few days of interaction were just a dream. Now that he had woken up from his dream, he should have forgotten about it. Duan Chen closed his eyes and swallowed the pill. Suddenly, he felt his body convulse. His consciousness became blurry, and he gradually fell to the ground. Looking at Duan Chen's fallen body, Fire pursed his lips and asked, Xiao Shu, am I too cruel? The small tree tilted its head and blinked its big eyes curiously, as if it did not understand what Fire meant. Actually, Duan Chen is not a bad person. Although he also came to encircle and annihilate Lord Yin Shao, he has taken good care of us along the way. During the 3 days that Master was unconscious, he also took good care of me. However, in my heart, the most important thing is Master. As long as it is for Master, I can do anything cruel. Chapter 12:19. Fire's eyes gradually turned from hesitation to determination. I can't let anyone discover our identities, otherwise it will bring danger to Master. So letting Duan Chen lose his memories for the past few days is the best decision. What's more, this guy has ulterior motives towards Master. I don't want Master to have any more dealings with him. If he forgets Master, he will definitely not pester her. The small tree looked at Fire in confusion, its big, watery eyes filled with doubt. Forget it, you're still young. You don't understand the matters of your parents. Fire lowered his head and gently caressed the head of the small tree. But I know the pain of losing a loved one, so I have to protect their safety even if I have to spend my entire life. I won't let them separate. The small tree raised its chubby arm and placed it on Fire's arm, as if it was comforting her. Fire laughed. Little tree, don't let Master know about this matter, otherwise little Mo and I will be finished. If Xiao Mo hadn't secretly passed her the pill, she would have been dead. She couldn't make Duan Chen lose his memories. Therefore, once Yin Luo Feng found out, it would also affect little Mo. The small tree nodded sensibly and said in a childish voice, All right, kill all of these people. Don't waste any more time. After we kill them, we'll go find Master. Fire raised his head, his eyes filled with flames as he looked at the shouting people, his body surging with killing intent. Pucci. As soon as she finished speaking, the vines turned into sharp thorns and pierced into the chests of those people. Blood seeped out from his chest and dyed his clothes red. With a wave of the small tree's hand, all the vines were retracted. The corpses of those people fell from the sky and piled up into a mountain. Although fire had killed a lot of people in this life, and even the small tree was stained with blood for the first time, they were not bloodthirsty people. The spiritual beasts were all used, and killing people was not their intention. If not for Zillian's jade flute, they would not have been able to control themselves and attack Yin Luo Feng. Therefore, after the small tree whipped them 100 times, it put them down. You can leave now. Fire placed his hands on his hips and arrogantly raised his chin. This matter is not your fault, so I will not kill you. That 100 lashes just now is your punishment. I hope that you will not encounter such a thing again in the future. Roar. All the beasts roared, looked at Fire gratefully, and quickly ran down the mountain. Let's go. Fire bent down, picked up the small tree, and walked down the mountain. Not long after they left, Duani Chin opened his eyes in a daze. He rubbed his aching forehead and frowned. What happened? Am I not here to join the fun with those people who came to encircle the Ghost Emperor? Why am I here? He had obviously not woken up yet, but when he saw the mountain of corpses, he was obviously shocked. These are the experts from the major forces? What exactly happened? How come I don't remember anything? His head ached, and he staggered to his feet. No, this place is not safe. I have to leave as soon as possible. It was night. The moonlight was like water. In the inn at the foot of Phoenix Mountain, 2 bodies were entangled on a large bed. Sweat flowed down their bodies. Yin Luo Feng lay on the bed, his hand caressing the man's handsome face as he narrowed his eyes. Yin Xiao, I've said it before, I'm up, you're down. Chapter 1220. Yin Xiao lowered his head and gently kissed the young girl's lips. His magnetic voice was filled with affection. I don't want you to be tired. Yin Luo Feng gently closed her eyes. As Yin Xiao moved, she felt a wave of spirit energy continuously flowing through her body, converging into a stream. Even though she did not continue to break through, it made the spiritual energy in her body more stable. This is the benefit of dual cultivation. Yin Luo Feng, who had enjoyed the benefits, had a faint smile on her lips. She hugged Yin Xiao with both arms and moved her body forward. 3 days and 3 nights. None of them left the room, as if they wanted to vent all their yearning for the past few days. Fire and the small tree also waited outside the room for the entire night. They wanted to return to the divine grimoire space, but they were too embarrassed to go in and disturb Yin Luo Feng. Originally, Fire thought that the battle of 3 days and 3 nights would definitely cause Yin Xiao to collapse. However, when she saw Yin Xiao again, it was as if nothing had happened to this man. Not only did he not show any signs of weakness, he was even more energetic than before. Of course, Fire did not know that because of their physiques, when Yin Luo Feng was enjoying the benefits, Yin Xiao was also sharing the benefits. It was just that he did not realize it himself. Even without the nourishment of spiritual energy, with Yin Xiao's current strength, even if he fought for another 300 rounds, he would not be weak. Otherwise, why would the women beside the strong be so nourished that their faces were flushed red? It was precisely because the stronger one was, the stronger one's physique would be. Not to mention not getting out of bed for 3 days and 3 nights. Even if it was another 3 days, nothing would happen. Master, shouldn't we set off? Fire looked at Yin Luo Feng, who was being hugged by Yin Xiao, and the smile on his face carried a hint of ambiguity. I know that the 2 of you have reunited after a long time, so you must be warm again. However, you have already stayed in bed for 3 days and 3 nights, so you should consider the feelings of us single people. Yin Luo Feng raised his eyebrows and smiled lightly. Fire, you and the small tree go to the divine grimoire space and wait for me. After saying this, Yin Luo Feng recalled them back to the divine grimoire space and turned to look at Yin Xiao. If you have anything you want to ask, you can ask it now. Just who is it? Yin Xiao pondered for a moment before asking. The person he was asking was naturally the small tree. I once nurtured a child from a seed I obtained in Yellow Spring City. Yin Luo Feng raised the corners of his lips. Back then, not long after you left, he was already born. Because his initial appearance was based on my ideas, I made him look like you. Yin Xiao lowered his eyes and stared deeply at the young girl's beautiful face. His gaze was filled with endless yearning. Feng I'm honored that I was the first person you thought of when you helped him design his appearance. Yin Luofeng smiled. Yin Xiao, in this world, only you can make me worry so much. Ever since she had arrived on this mainland, Yin Xiao had always been by her side. He had even willingly concealed all his brilliance for her. How fortunate was she to be able to obtain his favor. Let's go. It's almost time for me to ask for leave. I should return to the Western Continent Academy. I'll go with you. Yin Xiao gently wrapped her arms around Yin Luofeng's waist. She lowered her eyes and smiled faintly. From now on, wherever you go, I will follow you. Wasn't there a saying that went, if you marry a chicken, follow the chicken, and if you marry a dog, follow the dog? He had chosen to become a member of the Yun family, so he would follow her wherever she went. Chapter 12:21. Yin Xiao, you mean? Yin Luofeng narrowed his eyes, the smile on his lips filled with malice. You want to marry me? Yin Xiao's gaze was fixed on Yin Luofeng. You don't want to take responsibility? I will definitely take responsibility for you. Yin Luofeng stood on his tiptoes and kissed Yin Xiao's lips. After we've dealt with the enemies here, we'll go home and get married. Feeling the warmth on her lips, Yin Xiao raised his hand and hugged the young girl's body tightly. That action seemed to melt her into his bones and blood, inseparable for life. After the kiss, Yin Luofeng's hand landed on Yin Xiao's chest and gently pushed him away. Yin Xiao, during the time I wasn't here, you've attracted a lot of peach blossoms, especially that girl in purple who played the flute. I won't have peach blossoms. Yin Xiao raised his eyes and stared fixedly at Yin Luofeng. Yin Luofeng was stunned and raised his head to look at the handsome and cold man in front of him. The man's voice was filled with killing intent. Because I will break all the flowers. Peach blossoms? Just break them. He had never been someone who had tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex. So what if he broke those peach blossoms? Then what about me? Yin Luofeng looked at the man with a smile that wasn't a smile and asked. The man's expression was only serious when he was facing her. You're not a flower. Then what am I? You are. Yin Xiao pulled Yin Luofeng's hand and pressed it tightly against his chest. You are this. Yin Luofeng's hand felt the man's beating heart in his chest, causing her heart to skip a beat. You are my heart. If you're not here, then my heart won't be here either. Yin Xiao stared at Yin Luofeng seriously and attentively. If someone else had said this, Yin Luofeng would definitely have thought of it as flowery words. But the person who said this was Yin Xiao. It was the Yin Xiao who never lied, nor did she know how to use flowery words. Every word he said came from the bottom of his heart and expressed his true feelings. How could she not believe this kind of man? Yin Xiao. Yin Luofeng withdrew her hand. She touched her burning cheeks and turned her head to the other side. Let's go. All right. Yin Xiao's gaze continued to follow Yin Luofeng. Within his deep black eyes, that figure was exceptionally clear. West Continent College. In the classroom, the middle-aged man's cold gaze swept over the many students below. His expression was very ugly. Yin Luofeng hasn't arrived yet? The little lowly furrowed her brows. She opened her mouth to speak, but when Zaheo saw this, he hurriedly pulled on her sleeve. Miss, just bear with it. Wang Yiji is like the sun at high noon. He's not easy to deal with. Little lowly said unhappily, but she offended Wang Mujing in order to save us. Her voice was very soft, so soft that it was almost inaudible. However, and Zaheo's ears were sharp enough to hear the little lowly's murmur. That day, after Yin Luofeng left the academy, the few old men in the elders' assembly did not want Wang Mujing's uncle, Wang Yiji, to have any contact with Yin Luofeng. They had specially arranged for him to take care of other disciples, but they had not expected that Wang Yiji would bribe the protector of the elders' assembly and transfer him to Yin Luofeng's academy. In addition, during this period of time, the elders had been busy with other matters, so no one had discovered this. However, when Wang Yizhi had confidently come to avenge his nephew, he suddenly realized that Yin Luofeng had not come to the academy. Moreover, he had been gone for more than half a month. Chapter 1222. The rage in Wang Yizhi's heart grew as he thought of his nephew's miserable state of being bullied by her. His face darkened the entire day, causing all the students in the hall to be on tenterhooks. When Yin Luofeng arrives, get him to come see me. Wang Yizhi scoffed coldly and turned to walk out of the hall. No matter how long Yin Luofeng runs away, there will come a day when he returns. When that time comes, he will make her pay a painful price. In Academy City, the streets were bustling with people and carriages. Yin Luofeng held the back of her head with both hands and narrowed her eyes. The corners of her lips curled into an evil smile. Her black eyes were incomparably deep as she stared deeply at the street in front of her. Yin Xiao, do you plan to come with me to the academy or stay here? Yin Xiao paused in her footsteps and turned her eyes towards the young girl beside her. After a moment of silence, she said, I have no interest in the academy, so I'll wait for you here. All right, Yin Luofeng put down her hand, her slightly raised brows full of smiles. Then let's go take a look at the house first and settle down here. Now that you're here, I won't stay in the academy in the future. Honestly speaking, the cultivation rooms in the academy were not very attractive to her. What she needed was the fruit of the soul. If not for that, she would not have stayed in the academy. Master, why don't you ask Yin Xiao to help you get the fruit of the soul? Little Mo's puzzled voice sounded from within her soul. With Yin Xiao's power, as long as Yin Luofeng asked, he could do it. But Yin Luofeng's lips curled into a shallow smile. Firstly, I don't know where the fruit of the soul is for now. Secondly, I don't want to fall out with West Continent Academy. After all, those cheap masters have been very good to me, and I don't want to hurt their hearts. Thirdly, she paused and continued, I won't ask for Yin Xiao's help for things that I can do with my own power, even if he's my man. Little Mo fell silent. He had followed Yin Luofeng for 2 lifetimes and naturally understood Yin Luofeng's character. If she could complete a task by herself, she would never ask for help from others. Furthermore, if the Western Continent Academy had betrayed her, even if she had to forcefully seize it, she would snatch the soul fruit. It was precisely because the few elders in the Western Continent Academy treated her well that if she had any other way, she would definitely not shed all pretense of cordiality with them. Master, Little Mo sighed. No matter what you do, I will accompany you. Yin Luofeng lowered his eyes and smiled. Thank you, Little Mo. The young girl's voice warmed Little Mo's heart. At that moment, he clearly understood that he was willing to do anything for her. After a while, Yin Luofeng and Yin Xiao found a house and bought it at a very reasonable price. Yin Luofeng's lips curled into an angle as she stared at the fresh and elegant courtyard in front of her. She lowered her eyes, and a faint luster appeared on her beautiful face. Yin Xiao, from today onwards, this place will be our temporary home. No matter how busy she was in the academy, she knew that in this house, there was a man who had always been waiting for her. Hearing the young girl's words, Yin Xiao hugged her waist from behind and used his chin to rub against her head. A low and hoarse voice sounded in her ear. Chapter 1223. I'll wait for you here. Yin Luofeng's heart skipped a beat. She turned around and looked at the man standing in front of her. Yin Xiao, should we hire some maids and cooks? No need. Yin Xiao shook her head and smiled. I'm enough. We don't need extra people to disturb our lives. Hearing this, Yin Luofeng's smile grew. I've been away from the academy for about half a month. I'll be going to the academy later. This place isn't very far from the academy. Yin Xiao pondered for a moment before continuing. So, if you're in any danger, I can rush over to save you. He indulged her in everything. But that didn't mean that he was willing to put her in danger. As long as she was in any danger, he would rush over without a care for anything else. Fire, small tree, Little Mo. As soon as Yin Luofeng's voice fell, a few figures appeared beside her. She continued, During this time, I'll give you your freedom. I won't let you stay in the divine grimoire space. You can come and go as you please. Master, I love you too much. Little Mo's eyes lit up. He excitedly rushed towards Yun Luofeng. He pouted his lips and planned to kiss Yun Luofeng's cheek. Unfortunately, before he could reach Yun Luofeng's side, a large hand grabbed him from behind and pulled him away from Yun Luofeng. He needs to be disciplined. Yin Zhao's low voice rang out as his cold eyes stared warningly at Xiao Mo, who was in his hands. For the first time, little Mo regretted facilitating Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao, because this man was a complete vinegar jar. Even he was not allowed to get close to his master. What made little Mo despair was that Yun Luofeng only glanced at him and said, "Do whatever you want." "Master." Seeing that Yun Luofeng was about to leave, little Mo cried out in panic. "You can't value a lover over a friend. We've been friends for 2 lifetimes. How can you abandon me?" No matter how little Mo screamed, Yun Luofeng didn't stop and left the courtyard. 2 lines of tears of despair flowed down little Mo's cheeks. He cried miserably, "You're a woman who values a lover over a friend." His cries passed through the walls of the courtyard and permeated outside the house. If it was an ordinary person, they definitely wouldn't meddle in other people's business. However, there were always those who thought they were in the right and stood up to criticize the other party. Just as Yin Xiao was about to turn around and leave with Xiao Mo, an angry shout came from outside the door. "Even if the child did something wrong, you can't hit him like this. Look at how pitiful this child is crying. How can you bear to treat him like this? Are you still his father?" Yin Zhao's cold eyes swept towards the meddlesome woman standing outside the main door as his handsome face grew increasingly solemn. Yin Xiao, who was with Yun Luofeng, never wore that mask. Hence, at this moment, his handsome and grim features were clearly seen by the woman. A stunned look flashed across the woman's eyes. A complicated and regretful expression appeared on her beautiful face. What she felt complicated was that such a handsome man would treat a child so harshly. It was a pity that such a peerless man was already married and had a child. Scram! The man did not say anything else, but that one word shook the woman's heart. She felt as if all her internal organs had been shaken and turned numb. "Don't you think that you've done something wrong?" the beautiful woman asked righteously. "He's only a child. How could you mistreat him like this?" Chapter 12:24. As she spoke, the woman's leg was about to cross the threshold. A murderous intent flashed across Yun Zhao's eyes. "If you dare to take another step through the door, I'll cut it off immediately." The man's cold and murderous voice caused the woman's body to tremble, and she subconsciously retracted her leg. This man's aura is too strong, so strong that perhaps even Master is not as strong as him. The beautiful woman frowned. "Your child is crying so pitifully. Could it be that you have the heart to do so?" Bang! The man waved his sleeves, and a wave of energy shot out, sending the woman's body flying violently. At the same time, he slammed the door shut, locking the beautiful woman outside. Senior Sister Mingqi. When they saw the beautiful woman fall, the crowd behind her reacted and hurriedly helped her up. "Senior Sister Mingqi, are you all right?" The beautiful woman broke away from the crowd support, and a strange light flashed across her beautiful eyes. "I'm fine. I just saw an injustice. Unfortunately, I'm not strong enough, and I can't save that child. Now, I can only drop the matter." "Senior Sister Mingqi, this isn't your fault. It's the parents who are inhumane. They're actually abusing their child." Everyone spoke up for the injustice. Hearing these people's words, the beautiful woman felt a little better. "I don't think this man is a bad person. In comparison, the child's mother is definitely not a good person. Otherwise, she wouldn't have abandoned the child and left a man to face a child." At this moment, the beautiful woman's mind was already filled with the scene of abandonment. Her heart unconsciously sympathized with Yin Xiao, and she was no longer as angry as before. In her eyes, this man must have been abandoned by his wife, which was why he had flown into a rage out of humiliation and vented his anger on the child. The poor child was abandoned by his irresponsible mother and abused by his father. If she was the child's mother, she would never abandon such a delicate and jade-carved boy. let's go back to the academy first. Yao Mengqi's eyes were filled with pity. She took one last look at the tightly shut door before turning around and leading a group of people back to the academy. In the courtyard, Xiao Imo had already shut his mouth. The corners of his eyes were still glistening with tears as he carefully looked at Yin Xiao. Did I get into trouble? He only wanted to lament and complain to keep Yin Luofeng here. Who would have thought that a meddlesome woman would jump out? Her master's man was so outstanding. What if other women took a fancy to him? The more little Imo thought about it, the more he regretted it. If he had known this would happen, he would have obediently accepted the discipline. Yin Zhao's eyes were cold and his face was expressionless. An ant can't stir up a storm. In other words, he didn't care about that woman's strength. If she dared to come forward and pester him, he would definitely break her mercilessly. Little Imo let out a sigh of relief. He was very confident in Yin Xiao. This man only had his master in his eyes and in his heart. If there were really women who were to send themselves to his doorstep, he would be the first to not let them off. Just as Yin Luofeng stepped through the gates of the academy, he noticed some people's cautious and furtive gazes. Their eyes were filled with sympathy and pity. When they saw Yin Luofeng's gaze, they hurriedly looked away and pretended as if nothing had happened. Yin Luofeng frowned slightly. He did not know what had happened, but when she found her school, she understood why those people were looking at her with such a gaze. Chapter 12:25. Yin Luofeng. Wang Yizhi was teaching students when he suddenly noticed Yin Luofeng at the door. He flew into a rage. You've been absent for so many days, and you still dare to come to the academy. Who gave you the courage to not come to the academy for half a month? Yin Luofeng's evil eyes glanced at Wang Yizhi. I've asked for leave, don't you know? Actually, this matter was to be blamed on the void. He had originally arranged for someone else to manage the Soul Teacher Hall, so he sent someone to pass Yin Luofeng's letter to that teacher, who knew that Wang Yizhi would bribe him and switch him over. That teacher was so busy that he forgot about this matter, so Wang Yizhi didn't even know that Yin Luofeng had handed over the letter. What letter? I didn't receive it. Wang Yizhi snorted. You've been absent for more than half a month. According to the rules, you'll be expelled from the academy. However, I can give you a chance. I'll whip you 100 times. Hua. And Zaheo hurriedly stood up. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. Miss Yin is a girl and has a weaker physique. I'm willing to take the punishment for her. After all, Yin Luofeng had offended Wang Yizhi and his nephew because of them. He should take the punishment for her. Who do you think you are? Why do you have to take the punishment for her? Wang Yizhi sneered and said disdainfully, Today I'm going to teach Yin Luofeng a lesson. If anyone dares to plead for her, I'll expel him from the academy. And Zaheo wanted to say something, but he suddenly received a signal from Yin Luofeng. This caused him to swallow the words that were on the tip of his tongue. His brows were filled with worry. Expel me from the academy? I'm afraid you don't have that right. The girl's voice was cold and heartless. Her slightly raised brows were domineering and extremely arrogant. In this academy, you're the first person who dares to speak to me like this. Wang Yizhi sneered. His slightly narrowed eyes flashed with a fierce light. So, I'll let you know the consequences of disobeying a teacher. Boom. Enraged, Wang Yizhi unleashed the pressure from his body and launched an attack on Yin Luofeng. His gaze was extremely sharp, like a sharp sword that could kill without leaving a trace. Miss Yin and Zaheo was so anxious that he was sweating profusely. However, he could only watch helplessly as Wang Yizhi charged towards Yin Luofeng. Just as the slap was about to land on the young girl's forehead, the young girl finally moved. Bang. She took 2 steps to the side and tightly grasped Wang Yizhi's palm. Under everyone's shocked gaze, she suddenly pulled back her hand, and Wang Yizhi's body was smashed to the ground in front of everyone. I told you, I've asked for leave before. Wang Yizhi's fall wasn't light. He stood up with his hands on his waist and angrily glared at Yin Luofeng. You dare to hit me? Good, very good. Since you even dare to beat me up, then don't even think about staying here. I will definitely expel you from the academy. Yin Luofeng didn't look at him anymore. He turned around and walked in the direction of the cultivation room. She had originally thought that the teachers of the Western Continent Academy were very strong, but now it seemed that they were only so. Rather than wasting time here, he might as well cultivate on his own. Yin Luofeng. Wang Yizhi roared angrily. His roar reverberated through the entire academy and lingered for a long time. The disciples in the Soul Teacher Hall were all stunned. No one thought that Yin Luofeng would dare to treat Wang Yizhi like this. After all, Wang Yizhi was also a teacher of the academy. Chapter 12:26. Moments later, the entire academy was in an uproar. It was said that the disciple who entered the academy today had actually beaten up Wang Yizhi. Even the #1 disciple on the heaven list did not have such guts in the past. It seemed that this year, the West Continent Academy was destined to not be peaceful. In the West Continent Academy, there was a clear hierarchy. Other than the elusive dean, the elders were the most respected, followed by the hall masters. The academy was divided into a few halls, namely the Morning Hall, Medical Hall, Beast Taming Hall, and Steward Hall. The first 3 halls corresponded to the subjects that the students studied. Similarly, once one reached the Earth list, one had the right to enter the various halls and did not need to stay in the academy to continue studying. As for the Steward Hall, as the name suggested, it was used to punish disciples who made mistakes. It could be said that the Steward Hall's hall master had the highest authority in the 4 halls. Of course, if a student wanted to be above the hall masters, they had to enter the heaven list. Only the people on the heaven list had a status below the elders. Under the hall master were the teachers of the various academies. These teachers did not have a high status in the academy, but they had the right to control the academy's disciples. At this moment, in the Steward Hall, the various hall masters gathered and looked coldly at the crying Wang Yizhi. Hall master, this disciple called Yin Luofeng is too much. He completely does not know how to respect his teachers. Our academy cannot allow such a student to stay. Wang Yizhi cried with snot and tears, his eyes filled with grievance, as if he had really been bullied by Yin Luofeng. The Steward Hall's hall master frowned. According to what you said, Yin Luofeng is indeed too much. The Morning Hall's hall master smiled faintly, his fingers stroking his beard, and said, I think that Wang Yizhi did not know right from wrong and punished his disciple. As far as I know, Yin Luofeng did indeed submit a leave letter. As for who approved it, I do not know. So what if he has a leave letter? Even if he has taken leave, he cannot do anything to a teacher. Our academy cannot accept such a disciple. I think that Yin Luofeng should be kicked out of the academy. The one who said this was the Medical Hall's hall master. His expression was very ugly, and his tone was stern. This old antique valued respecting teachers the most. How could he allow a disciple like Yin Luofeng to exist? So what if Wang Yizhi was wrong? If the teacher judged her to be wrong, then she was wrong. As a student, she could only swallow the bitter pill. Who allowed her to lay her hands on her teacher? We don't know how to decide on this matter. Why don't we wait for the elders to finish their tasks before reporting to the elders and letting them make a decision? The Beast Taming Hall's hall master frowned and suggested, the elder is very busy right now. How can we bother him over such a small matter? The Medical Hall master sneered. Yin Luofeng doesn't respect his teacher. He should be expelled. A sinister glint flashed across Wang Yizhi's eyes when he heard the Medical Hall master's words. Yin Luofeng, you're still a little too inexperienced to fight me. How about this? The hall leader of the Morning Hall stood up. The corners of his lips curled into a small smile. If Yin Luofeng can charge into the earth ranking within 5 days, he will have the right to join any of the halls. At that time, his status will be more noble than Wang Yizhi's. Beating him up won't be a big deal. What do you all think? Within 5 days? The hall master of the Medical Hall laughed out loud. All right, I'll give him this chance. Chapter 12:27. Enter the Earth list in 5 days? That was impossible. The Medical Hall master snorted coldly, flicked his sleeves, and quickly walked out of the duty hall. The others also dispersed when they saw him leave. This is as far as I can help her. The hall master of the morning hall laughed. His aged eyes were filled with happiness. He quickly walked out and disappeared under the sunlight in the courtyard. In the cultivation room, Yun Luofeng had just stepped into the room when a knock came from the door. She raised her eyebrows and said, "Come in." As soon as she finished speaking, the door was pushed open and an old man dressed in navy blue robes walked in. "What's the matter?" Yun Luofeng looked at the old man who had entered the room and raised her eyebrows. "Yin girl, I have come to find you for something." The old man smiled. "Right, I haven't introduced myself. I am the hall master of the morning hall, Mu Ran." Hall master of the morning hall? After entering the academy, Yin Luofeng had learned about the division of power in the academy. So, when she heard that the person in front of her was the hall master of the morning hall, she could not help but frown. She did not understand the other's background. "You hit Wang Yiji?" Mu Ran asked straightforwardly. Yin Luofeng laughed arrogantly. "He deserves a beating." Mu Ran immediately fell silent. This girl was just like what that person had said. She was arrogant and wild, but she didn't make people feel disgusted by her. "Girl, you've caused trouble this time. Wang Yiji has reported this to the duty hall and wants to kick you out of the academy. Fortunately, I have fought for an opportunity for you. As long as you enter the Earth list in 5 days, this punishment will be lifted." Yun Luofeng raised her eyebrows and looked at Mu Ran. "You can be sure that I can enter the Earth list in 5 days?" Mu Ran laughed involuntarily. If it was someone else, they might not have this ability. But if it was you, can you do it? "Why? Also, why are you helping me?" "Because I owe someone a favor." Mu Ran smiled as she looked at Yin Luofeng. "I promised him that I would take care of you after you came here." Yin Luofeng fell silent. She really could not think of who was helping her behind the scenes. So she asked, "Who do you owe?" "Chen Yuqing." "Chen Yuqing?" Yin Luofeng was startled, and a trace of helplessness flashed across her lowered eyes. So, Chen Yuqing had been helping her behind the scenes. "Girl, you only have 5 days. This is all I can help you with. If you can't enter the Earth list, I won't be able to protect you." Mu Ran stood up, the smile on his face unchanged. "Now I won't disturb your cultivation." As he finished speaking, he turned and walked out, closing Yun Luofeng's door on the way. 5 days. Yun Luofeng gently stroked his chin. 5 days is enough. At this time, she did not choose to look for her cheap masters, because such a small matter did not require the help of others. She could totally rely on her own strength to stay in the academy. At this thought, she stood up and walked out. In the Western Continent Academy, there was a special competition arena, and disciples were not allowed to fight in private. At this moment, the arena was bustling with noise, and it was as lively as a market. However, when Yin Luofeng stepped into the martial arts arena, the entire arena quieted down. "It's her? I think she's called Yin Luofeng." "Yes, she's the Yin Luofeng who dared to injure Wang Yiji. I heard that the Steward's Hall has set a rule for Yin Luofeng. If she can enter the Earth list within 5 days, her punishment will be waived. Otherwise, she will be expelled from the academy." Chapter 1228. 5 days? TSK. How's that possible in 5 days? The disciples who can enter the Earth list are all venerable ones. Even the last one is a beginner venerable one. Every one of them is more powerful than Wang Yiji. I really don't know where she gets her confidence to come here. If I were her, I'd pack up and get lost. That's better than embarrassing myself here. The crowd discussed among themselves as they watched the young lady walk toward the ring. Their eyes were filled with mockery and mockery. At that moment, 2 young men were flattering each other around the ring. They did not even notice Yin Luofeng, who was walking toward them. "Brother Hu, congratulations. You've finally entered the 20th place on the Earth list, unlike me, who's still hovering around the 50th place. You're flattering me. I was just lucky. Brother Lin, you're younger than me. In a few years, you'll definitely surpass me." The young man, who was addressed as Brother Lin, wanted to flatter Hu Xiong again, but his line of sight was blocked. He was stunned. When he looked up, he saw a young lady in white standing in front of him. "The 20th place on the Earth list? Yin Luofeng raised his eyebrows and curled his lips into a faint smile. I want to challenge you. The young lady's devilish voice reverberated in the crowd. It was deafening, and everyone was dumbfounded. What? Is she really going to challenge the Earth List? Why did she not choose Lin Xiong, who's ranked 50th, but Hu Lin, who's ranked 20th? You want to challenge me? Hu Lin pointed at himself in disbelief. Young lady, I don't have a sense of propriety when I fight. If I'm not careful, I'll break someone's limbs. Are you sure you want to challenge me with your skinny arms and legs? Yin Luofeng raised his eyebrows. That's right, I want to challenge you. After confirming the answer from the young lady, Hu Lin could not help but burst out laughing. Since you want to challenge me, I'll grant your wish. Come, let's fight in the ring. Hu Lin had broken through to the advanced venerable realm. Therefore, he was confident that Yin Luofeng was no match for him. Under everyone's gaze, Yin Luofeng and Hu Lin had already walked into the arena. I'll let you make 3 moves first. Hu Lin pointed 3 fingers at Yin Luofeng disdainfully, his face full of ridicule and contempt. Yin Luofeng's devilish eyes swept over him, but he didn't stand on ceremony. His figure flashed and appeared in front of Hu Lin. Hu Lin's expression suddenly changed, and cold sweat flowed down his forehead. He hurriedly raised his hand to meet Yin Luofeng's attack. Boom! With a loud bang, Hu Lin's body was sent flying out of the arena. Silence. The entire martial arena was deathly silent. The people who had been clamoring were dumbfounded by Yin Luofeng's actions. They stared dumbfoundedly at the young girl with her right hand behind her back. Cough, cough. Hu Lin coughed dryly and spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked at Yin Luofeng with an ugly expression. You're a Holy Spirit? Holy Spirit. These 3 words caused a commotion in the crowd. Even in the 7 continents where Holy Spirit practitioners could be found everywhere, reaching the Holy Spirit realm at such a young age would still shock everyone. Yes. Yin Luofeng nodded, gently in response to Hu Lin's confusion. In the beginning, she hadn't wanted to reveal her abilities, as she was afraid that her motive for coming would be discovered. However, she had now thought it through. The more she hid, the more people would bully her. Hence, why would she continue to hide her abilities? Fuck, Hu Lin cursed. You're a Holy Spirit, yet you're challenging a venerable realm like me. Don't you have any shame? There are so many people on the Earth List. Why did you challenge me instead of the others? Chapter 1229. Hu Lin felt very wronged. He was only a venerable spiritualist. The difference in strength was huge, but Yin Luofeng just had to find him. How could he not feel wronged? Yin Luofeng shrugged. Here, I only heard your ranking. I don't know what the others are ranked. Are you going to challenge the 50th place next to me? Hu Lin's voice suddenly disappeared. He did not know what to say. He deserved to be unlucky? Wasn't he just chatting with someone? Why did he have to encounter such a thing? Brother Hu. Hearing Yin Luofeng's words, Lin Xiong's entire body trembled. He smiled awkwardly and said, This matter has nothing to do with me. Who told you to rank higher than me? If she doesn't look for you, does she want to look for me? I'm only a beginner, venerable spiritualist. Hu Lin glared at Lin Xiong angrily. He crawled up from the ground and snorted. I'm unlucky. Thinking about how arrogant he looked earlier, Hu Lin wanted to find a hole to hide in. Make way, make way. At this moment, a familiar voice came from the back of the crowd, and Zaheo squeezed through the crowd with great difficulty and saw Hu Lin glaring at Yin Luofeng. His expression instantly changed, and he looked anxious. However, Hu Lin did not say anything in the end. He turned around and walked out of the crowd, and Zaheo hurried to Yin Luofeng's side and asked anxiously, Miss Yin, how did you offend Hu Lin? Yin Luofeng's gaze fell on Zaheo. Why? This Hu Lin's younger brother is ranked 10th on the heaven list. And Zaheo wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. You actually offended him. You're finished. There were only 10 disciples on the heaven list, but each of them was an elite. Even the person ranked 10th had strength surpassing a Holy Spirit. Above a Holy Spirit, there were a few levels. They were Holy King, Holy Venerate, and Holy Lord. Each level was the same as before. It was also divided into beginner, intermediate, and advanced levels. However, only holy kings were qualified to enter the heaven list. Therefore, the geniuses on the heaven list were all exceptionally talented. I'm tired. Yin Luofeng yawned and said lazily, I'll go back and rest first. Miss Yun, seeing Yin Luofeng turn around and walk out the door, and Zihao hurriedly chased after him. His expression was so anxious that his face had changed color. He was afraid that the genius on the heaven ranking would come looking for Yun Luofeng to settle the score. Heaven Series Cultivation Room. On the exquisite and luxurious bed, the man's enchanting and peerless figure was leaning on the chaise lawn. His pair of seductive fox-like eyes shone with a shrewd and cunning light. You said that my big brother was defeated by a little girl? His voice rang out lazily and a smile appeared on his peerless face. If Ji Jiutian's charm was only on the surface, it was more overbearing and arrogant. This man, on the other hand, was charming to the bone. Every frown and smile of his was extremely charming, like a peerless beauty, so beautiful that it made one forget to breathe. Senior brother Hu Lin was indeed defeated by a new little girl. That little girl even injured Wang Yizhi in front of everyone. This girl is quite interesting. My big brother isn't strong, but he's an advanced venerable martial artist. It's not easy for her to defeat him. The man waved his hand and draped a peach-colored robe over his body. His lips curled into a fox-like smile. I'd like to meet this little girl. Chapter 1230. Junior Brother. At this moment, a voice came from outside the door. Huli frowned slightly. Perhaps he was very impatient with the person who came. Just as he was about to tell the person beside him to say that he was not there, the door was pushed open by a slender hand. If Xiao Mo was here, he would definitely recognize the woman who came in. It was the nosy person from before. Yao Mingqi walked in quickly and walked towards Hu Li. Junior Brother, I'm back. What's wrong? Don't you welcome me? Hu Li's expression was slightly impatient. I still have something to do. If you want someone to accompany you, you can go find someone else. I'm sorry, but I won't be accompanying you. Junior Brother, why are you so cold to me? After all, I was bullied outside today. Yao Mingqi sat down angrily and poured herself a cup of tea. Her face was full of anger. Hearing this, Hu Li's eyes flashed with excitement. Yao Mingqi was bullied outside? Ha, that's great. Who asked this woman to bother him all day long? Senior Brother. The disciple who had not left looked at Hu Li and reminded him speechlessly. Senior Brother, even if you're so excited to see Senior Sister Yao being bullied, can you not show it so obviously? It's as if you really want someone to bully Senior Sister Yao. Hu Li also felt that his excitement was too obvious. He hurriedly coughed twice and asked, what happened? Fortunately, Yao Mingqi was currently in a state of anger and did not notice Hu Li's flash of excitement. On my way back today, I saw a man lecturing a child. The child was crying miserably. I was so angry that I wanted to stop the man. Oh, Hu Li's eyes flashed slightly. Did the man bully you? No. Yao Mingqi's eyes were filled with pity. He didn't bully me, and I sympathize with him. This man is also very pitiful. The one who really goes too far is the woman who abandons her husband and son. If I see that cruel woman, I will definitely tear her into pieces. When Hu Li saw the light in Yao Mingqi's eyes when she talked about the man, a smile gradually appeared on his face. That's great. Yao Mingqi, this woman, was finally interested in other men. He could finally get rid of her. Junior Brother, don't you think that woman is too much? Yao Mingqi said angrily. How can there be such a cruel woman in this world? Such a handsome husband, such a delicate child. She's actually willing to abandon them. If it were me, I would definitely not do such a thing. If he hadn't been abandoned by a woman, why was there no one in the yard where the man lived? What's more, if he hadn't been hurt before, this man wouldn't be so cold and heartless towards others, especially to a woman like her. He would choose to use such a violent method. Yao Mingqi felt sympathy for Yun Xiao, but she didn't know that in this man's heart, only Yin Luofeng was special. Other than in front of Yin Luofeng, he would melt all the ice in front of him. He would never treat other women differently. Not bad. Huli nodded in agreement. If it were you, you definitely wouldn't abandon that man. Senior apprentice Sister Mingqi, since you sympathize with him so much, why don't you go find him? It would be best if she went now and returned some peace to herself. No, he's just been hurt. Even if I go, I won't be able to comfort him. Instead, I'll be rejected by him. Yao Mingqi sighed a little dejectedly. However, it's a good thing I remember where his house is. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. Chapter 1231. After saying this, Yao Mingqi stood up and said with a determined gaze, "Junior brother, be a good person to the end. I will use my entire life's energy to heal the damage he has suffered in his heart. I will not give up. Furthermore, if I were that child's mother, I would never let anyone hurt him. Go. I will definitely support you." Huli heaved a sigh of relief. Right now, he only wanted to get rid of this pestering woman. "Thank you, junior brother. When I'm done, I will treat you to a meal." "No need for a meal. Just don't appear in front of me again." Huli raised the corners of his lips and leaned lazily on the chaise longue. He and Yao Mingqi were ranked 9th and 10th respectively, but their strengths were similar. In fact, he was even stronger. However, he had no interest in this ranking, so he had never competed with Yao Mingqi for a ranking. Because of this, Yao Mingqi thought that he had fallen in love with her and had given the 9th place to her. And because of this misunderstanding, he had been pestered for many years, thinking of those rumors. Huli had the urge to vomit. Yao Mingqi was not bad-looking, but she was not the type he liked. How could he give up his ranking for a woman? The funny thing was, Yao Mingqi thought the same. Even though Huli had repeatedly said that he had no other intentions towards her, she still thought that Huli was too shy to admit it. Tell me, how did a stubborn person like Yao Mingqi enter the heaven role? Huli pointed in the direction that Yao Mingqi had left and asked speechlessly. The young disciple pondered for a moment. Senior sister Yao's talent is not bad. Her talent was not bad. Coupled with the superior environment that she grew up in, she had successfully entered the heaven role. I really pity the man who received her sympathy. Huli smiled. Based on my understanding of Yao Mingqi, she definitely doesn't understand the real situation. She just imagined a drama of abandoning her husband and son. She even thinks that what she did was right. When it comes to people like her, I just want to tell you to stay as far away from me as possible. The corner of the young disciple's mouth twitched. Senior brother, senior sister Yao's nature is not bad. So what? Huli raised his eyebrows and smiled. I can't stand the way she conducts herself. In comparison, I am more interested in Yun Luo Feng. Senior brother Huli, are you going to cause trouble for Yun Luo Feng? The young disciple looked at Huli and asked softly, "What do you mean cause trouble? Do you know how to speak?" Huli glared at him. Am I someone who will cause trouble for others? I just want to wait until tomorrow to talk to her about life and ideals. That's not looking for trouble. The young disciple shuddered. He couldn't help but sympathize with those who were interested in senior brother Huli. Yin Luo Feng didn't stay in the academy for long. Once the sun set, she walked out of the academy. Perhaps because she had beaten up Wang Yizhi before, no one dared to stop her, and they could only watch as she left the academy. All these years, she had up all it, Yun, and Yun Muse, Yun the Yun. All she had been running all these years, only she felt, and to up. You're back. Yun Xiao raised his head and saw Yun Luo Feng standing at the doorway. His cool and handsome face slightly curved. Dinner has been prepared. I haven't been by your side during this period of time, and you've lost weight. Chapter 1232. Yin Luo Feng smiled. I'm used to the meals you prepare. I'm not used to eating outside food. Even the top chefs in the restaurant aren't as good as you. She slowly walked towards the man. Cultivators could go years without eating because spiritual energy could satisfy their hunger. However, when they weren't cultivating, humans still needed to enjoy food. Moreover, how many people would be able to resist the temptation of such a delicacy? Yin Xiao, Your cooking skills are improving. Yin Luofeng sat down. She used a spoon to gently scoop a spoonful of lotus porridge and tasted the tea. The fragrance filled her nose and melted in her mouth, leaving an endless aftertaste. As long as you like it. Seeing Yin Luofeng's satisfied expression, Yun Zhao's eyes were full of smiles. If you're willing, I can cook for the rest of my life. Okay. Yin Luofeng raised her brows at the man in front of her. Yin Xiao, after tasting your food, I'm afraid I can't leave you for the rest of my life. She was already very satisfied with her current life. She hoped that there wouldn't be any more disturbances in the future. All right, where are your subordinates? Yin Luofeng seemed to remember something and asked. Yin Xiao pondered for a moment and answered. I sent them to find Bai Su. If I'm not wrong, Bai Su has also come to the 7 continents. Bai Su. Yin Luofeng hadn't remembered this man in a long time. Now that she heard Yun Zhao's words, her hand holding the spoon paused. This Bai Su is a scourge. Don't worry. Yin Xiao walked behind Yin Luofeng and gently hugged her from behind. I won't let him hurt you. The man's embrace was very reassuring, so reassuring that she let down her guard. Yin Xiao, I believe you. If he said he wouldn't let Bai Su hurt her, then she would believe him. The next day, early morning, after Yin Luofeng finished her breakfast, she was escorted to the academy by Yun Xiao. But not long after they left, Yao Mengqi sneakily walked to the entrance of the house. Her hand lightly knocked on the door a few times, but no one answered. She pondered for a moment, then leaped over the wall and entered the house from the outside. What's that smell? It smells so good. As soon as Yao Mengqi entered the courtyard, she smelled a fragrant aroma. She followed the aroma into the dining room and saw the leftovers on the table that hadn't been cleaned up in time. There are only 2 bowls and 2 pairs of chopsticks. Looks like I was right. This man lives alone with his son. There is no mistress. Yao Mengqi was very happy with her discovery. However, these dishes were made by that man. She didn't expect that although this man looked so cold, his mind was so meticulous. The food he made was very light and suitable for women. If I can become his wife, I will definitely be very happy. I really don't know what kind of woman doesn't know how lucky she is. Yao Mengqi felt indignant for Yin Xiao. At this moment, she picked up a piece of pastry from the plate and placed it in her mouth to taste it. Instantly, her eyes lit up. She had been pampered since she was young and had tasted all kinds of delicacies. However, none of the delicacies could compare to the pastries in front of him. Who let you in? Suddenly, a cold voice rang out from behind Yao Mengqi. It was filled with a dense killing intent. Chapter 1233. Yao Mengqi's body stiffened. She stiffly turned her head and looked at the man standing outside the dining room. She gulped with difficulty. I was worried about your son, so I came to see him. I didn't mean to sneak into your room. Her eyes were filled with tears as she stared at Yun Xiao aggrievedly. She spoke uneasily. Yun Zhao's eyes slowly swept towards Yao Mengqi's hand and noticed that she had just taken a bite of the pastry. At this moment, killing intent surged from his body, covering the sky and covering the earth as it surged towards Yao Mengqi. You've eaten it? Yao Mengqi was scared silly. I've only eaten half a pastry. Why is this man so angry? Who allowed you to eat it? The man's voice became increasingly cold and murderous, causing Yao Mengqi's heart to tremble. I didn't do it on purpose. I was attracted by the fragrance and could not help but walk over. If you mind, I can return you a plate of pastry. Yao Mengqi hurriedly placed the pastry in her hand on the table. She anxiously rubbed the corner of her clothes as tears shimmered in her eyes. She did not know what she had done wrong. The man raised his hand and a powerful force slammed into Yao Mengqi's body. Yao Mengqi spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground in a sorry state. She stared at Yun Xiao in terror. That's right. This man wants to kill me. Why? Just because I've eaten a piece of pastry? I really didn't do it on purpose. Please let me go. I'll return you a whole plate of pastry. Yao Mengqi was so frightened that she stumbled back. Her terrified eyes stared at the man's cold and handsome face. Ani, right at this moment, a soft and mellow voice sounded from behind Yun Xiao. Xiao Mo's eyes held a smile. Don't you understand? This plate of pastry is not something you can eat. Yin Xiao, this petty man, would only give everything he has to Yin Luofeng. How could he allow anyone else to have a share? Even if the other party had only eaten a piece of pastry. Yao Mengqi bit her pale lips. It's only a piece of pastry. Is there a need for that? Even though the pastry is delicious, it's not particularly precious. Is there a need to kill me over a piece of pastry? I'm from the West Continent Academy. In order to save her life, Yao Mengqi hurriedly reported Western Continent Academy. Indeed, upon hearing these words, Yun Xiao paused for a moment. Of course, he only paused for a moment because Yun Luofeng was in the Western Continent Academy. But in Yao Mengqi's eyes, she thought that Yun Xiao was afraid of the West Continent Academy's power. Young master, please let me go. I am from the Western Continent Academy. If you let me go, I will repay you in the future. Yao Mengqi raised her teary eyes and begged bitterly. Yun Zhao's cold gaze once again landed on her face. Western Continent Academy? So what? Western Continent Academy? So what? Was there a need for him to put her in his eyes? Yao Mengqi's expression changed once again. She did not expect that Yun Xiao would look down on the West Continent Academy. She gritted her teeth and said, Young master, I did not mean to enter your mansion today. That was because I was worried about the little young master. Plus, I am also worried about you. Please forgive me for my rashness. Xiao Mo stared blankly. This woman was really interested in Yin Xiao. His gaze shifted and he said with a grin, Auntie, are you interested in my father? Yao Mengqi was a little uneasy. She wanted to look at Yin Xiao, but did not dare to look at him directly. She could only lower her head and rub the corner of her clothes. Chapter 1234. Unfortunately, Xiao Mo paused. My father doesn't like you. Yao Mengqi was stunned. She raised her head to look at Xiao Mo and blinked in confusion. Why? In any case, she had stood up for him when he was being abused. Logically speaking, shouldn't this child want a mother who can protect him? Why would she say such cruel words? My father only loves my mother. Do you think that you can beat my mother with your charm? Xiao Mo sneered. This woman really doesn't understand the situation. At the very least, she had stood up for him because she was being bullied. That was why he didn't say anything. Now, she doesn't know what's good for her and wants to replace Yin Luofeng's position. Dream on. Yao Mengqi wasn't angry when she heard this. Instead, she hated Yin Xiao and Xiao Mo even more. Look at that damned woman. She abandoned her husband and child, but her husband and child still can't forget about her. Why doesn't a bolt of lightning strike her to death? Father, Xiao Mo blinked and turned to look at Yin Xiao. He blinked furtively. I want to play with this Andy, can I? Yin Xiao, who had wanted to kill Yao Mengqi, retracted his murderous aura and nodded coldly. As you wish. Thank you, father. Xiao Mo's smile was bright, and he said father very smoothly. Yun Xiao glanced at him. Remember to set up a formation around the house. I don't want anyone to break in again. Breaking in was one thing, but she actually dared to eat the pastries he made for Yun Luofeng. Yun Xiao stopped in his tracks. That's right, make her spit out what she just ate. After throwing the sentence down, Yun Xiao walked out without looking back. Only Xiao Mo and Yao Mengqi were left in the dining room. Yao Mengqi crawled up from the ground, and her pale face lit up with a flattering smile. Little master, I offended your father because I spoke up for you. Can you let me go now? Let you go? Xiao Mo sneered. Why should I? Indeed, you misunderstood that he was abusing me, so you stood up to help me. I can't say that you're wrong about this. I can only say that you're too stupid. I don't have any scars on my body. How can you tell that my father beat me up? Yao Mengqi's expression changed. This man was not what she had imagined. Everything that happened before was all a misunderstanding of his own. But you made the biggest mistake. Not only did you steal my father's pastries, but you even had wishful thinking about him. Little Mo raised her chin and said arrogantly, I've seen a lot of women like you, but those women didn't live long. Yao Mengqi's eyes darkened. Brat, now that your father isn't here, don't be too presumptuous. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Just as she finished speaking, she saw Yun Xiao, who had once again appeared at the entrance of the dining hall. Her expression changed drastically, and she laughed dryly. "Young master, I was only trying to scare the little master just now." Yun Xiao didn't seem to hear her words and continued walking toward her. "Young master, you boom!" Yun Xiao punched Yao Mingqi's back. In an instant, she felt the urge to vomit. She opened her mouth and spat out the pastries that she hadn't digested in time. "You talk too much." Yun Xiao looked at Xiao Mo. "By the time you're done, her pastries will have been digested." Chapter 1235. Xiao Mo's mouth twitched. She was unlucky to have met such a petty man like Yun Xiao. Bang! However, just when Yao Mingqi thought Yun Xiao would leave, Yun Xiao's leg had already landed on Yao Mingqi's back. Yao Mingqi was caught off guard and fell head first onto the ground. Her head happened to be covered in her own vomit. "Father, what are you doing now?" Yun Xiao thought for a moment and said, "I just remembered that your mother doesn't like people dirtying her territory. If she finds out when she comes back, she will definitely be angry. So, let her lick it clean." When Yao Mingqi heard this, she thought that Yun Xiao was still waiting for the heartless woman to return. However, Yun Xiao said that Yin Luophone would be angry when he came back at night. "Father, do you think that it's a waste for her to eat the pastries and want her to spit them out? But now that you're forcing her to eat them, isn't that the same as letting her taste the pastries?" Xiao Mo was speechless. Yun Xiao thought for a moment and said, "Take her out and let her vomit outside. That way, your mother won't be angry." At this moment, Xiao Mo pitied Yao Mingqi. After offending Yun Xiao, her fate was destined to be miserable. Yun Xiao looked coldly at Yao Mingqi, who was trying to get up. He lifted his leg and stepped on her head, forcing her to lick the vomit clean. Even though it was Yao Mingqi's own vomit, she felt her stomach churn. It was extremely disgusting. "Father, after she finishes vomiting, should we kill her?" Xiao Mo made a throat-slitting gesture as his eyes flashed coldly. It was as if killing was as easy as eating to him. "Her blood will dirty the courtyard, and your mother won't like it." Yun Xiao frowned. "So we'll cut off the tendons in her arms and legs and throw her out." "All right." Xiao Mo agreed. "Since her legs will sneak into other people's homes and her hands will steal other people's belongings, there's no need to keep her. Why not just cripple her?" The conversation between the two made Yao Mingqi's heart grow colder. She had seen many men in her life, but this was the first time she had seen such a cruel and heartless man. "No, I don't want it. Please let me go." Yao Mingqi cried miserably. Her voice was very sorrowful and pitiful. If she had merely snuck in, Yun Xiao would not have been so cruel. But what could he do? First, she had secretly eaten his pastries, and now she was delusional about him. Just based on this point, it was impossible for him to let her go. Yun Xiao did not even look at Yao Mingqi as he grabbed her by the collar and dragged her out of the house. No matter how much the other party cried and screamed, his expression did not change in the slightest. He had promised her, as long as there were any peach blossoms, he would break them and not leave a single one behind. First, Yin Luofeng's strength stirred up a storm in the entire academy. Then, another violent hurricane swept over. It was said that Yao Mingqi, the 9th disciple on the heaven list, had her hands and feet broken by someone outside and had already become a cripple. When he found out about this, Yao Mingqi's master flew into a rage. He swore to find the person who crippled his disciple. But, in the face of her master's questioning, Yao Mingqi seemed to be stunned. She stared blankly at the roof beam, her eyes lifeless. However, just as everyone was in a state of shock, another piece of news came out. It was said that Yao Mingqi's hands and feet were not clean. She had sneaked into someone's house and stolen their belongings, which resulted in her hands and feet being crippled. As for the person who had crippled her, it was not widely known. Chapter 1236. Go and investigate. Investigate immediately. I want to know who dared to touch my disciple. In the study room, Yao Shu angrily slammed his palm on the table and shouted angrily, "Anyone who hurts my disciple, I will make them die a horrible death. Other than being his disciple, Yao Mingqi was also his illegitimate daughter. Because there was a tigress at home, he had arranged for Yao Mingqi and her daughter to stay outside. It was also because of this that he felt so indebted to Yao Mingqi. Elder. The people below looked at Yao Shu carefully and said, "Everyone in the world is saying that Mrs. Hands and Feet are not clean. That's why she was crippled." Bullshit. My disciple was pampered and had everything she wanted. Why would she need to steal other people's belongings? Yao Shu's eyes were spitting fire. Someone must be framing us. You must get to the bottom of this. Yes, Elder. Everyone cupped their fists and replied respectfully. At this moment, an old man beside Yao Shu pondered for a moment, then asked, "Elder Yao Shu, do you think this matter was done by Su Kong and the others? After all, the headmaster has always been elusive. I haven't seen him for many years. Now that the Western Continent Academy has returned to the two great sects, our two great sects have been fighting endlessly. I think that Su Kong and the others are the biggest suspects." A ruthless light flashed across Yao Shu's eyes. "If I find out that it was Su Kong and the others who hurt my daughter, I will definitely make them die a horrible death." In front of these people, he no longer called Yao Mingqi his disciple, but instead called her his daughter. Other than a few people, many people in the outside world did not know about the relationship between him and Yao Mingqi. I don't think that's possible. Another old man was silent for a moment. No matter how much Su Kong and the others fight with us, they wouldn't do such a thing that would provoke public anger. Humph! Yao Shu coldly snorted. What's impossible? You don't know a person's face. Out of the 10 people on the heaven list, 6 of them are in our hands, and they only control 4 people. Therefore, they must want to eliminate some of our disciples. Furthermore, Mengqi is my daughter, so of course she became their first target of revenge. Yao Shu gnashed his teeth in hatred. He was even more certain that other than the few people in the void, no one else would have the strength and courage to do such a cruel thing. Not only did they cripple her daughter, they even slandered her for having dirty hands and feet. Why would her own daughter covet the money of others? Compared to the West Continent Academy, which was in constant turmoil, Yin Luofeng was not affected in the slightest. At this moment, she was holding a dual invitation in her hand. She raised her eyebrows and looked at the delicately crafted dual invitation seriously. "I knew it. It's definitely over." And Zaheo stood beside Yin Luofeng and muttered, "Of all the people you could have challenged, why did you challenge Hu Lin? Senior brother, Hu Li has issued a challenge to you. If you agree to it, you'll surely suffer his revenge, and if you don't, you'll be viewed as a coward." "Why should I agree?" Yin Luofeng casually threw the letter of challenge away. His lips curled into a smile. "I have no interest in accepting the challenge." The reason he challenged the disciples on the Earth ranking was so that he could stay in the academy. Since she could stay, why should she continue to fight? "But if you don't accept the challenge, Hu Li will come looking for trouble with you." And Zaheo was deeply worried. No matter what, he did not want Yin Luofeng to be in any danger. Chapter 1237. I don't want to accept the challenge, but that doesn't mean I'm afraid of him. Yin Luofeng stretched lazily. "You can go back first. I'm going to start cultivating." "All right." And Zaheo stood up helplessly. "Miss, let's go." Little Loli blinked her eyes and held in Zaheo's hand as they walked out of the room. The moment the door closed, little Loli turned to look in Zaheo. "Brother Zaheo, you're too wordy. I think she knows what she's doing." "Miss, that's a genius on the heaven list. Do you think Miss Yin can handle him?" And Zaheo sighed. He frowned and became even more worried. Little Loli turned to look at Yin Luofeng's closed door. Her large eyes shone brightly. "I have confidence in her." Even little Loli herself didn't know where this confidence came from. However, she knew that Yin Luofeng wouldn't be at a disadvantage. And Zaheo grew increasingly worried. However, he was too weak and couldn't do anything, let alone help Yin Luofeng. "I'm hungry, Brother Zaheo." Little Loli was afraid that Zaheo would continue chattering and hurriedly change the topic. She blinked her large, watery eyes as she spoke. Seeing little Loli's gaze, and Zaheo's heart melted. He hurriedly said, "Miss, I'll take you to eat now." "All right." The little Loli smiled. Her smile was innocent and pure. It was as bright as the sun, shining into the dark hearts of those people. "You said that Yin Luofeng rejected the challenge?" Inside the exquisite and luxurious room, Huli heard the person's report. His pair of fox-like eyes narrowed. "Since she rejected my challenge, then I'll personally go meet this girl." "Yes, brother Huli." After this person finished speaking, Huli had already stood up. He walked out of the room and headed in Yin Luofeng's direction. Yin Luofeng had just entered a state of cultivation when she heard footsteps coming from outside the room. She suddenly opened her eyes. At the same time, the room's door was pushed open. The moment she saw the man, only one word appeared in her mind. A stunner. That's right. No matter what word was used to describe a man, it was not as fitting as the word stunner. Yin Luofeng? The man raised his eyebrows and stared at Yin Luofeng, who was sitting cross-legged. A cunning light flashed in his eyes. "Huli?" Yin Luofeng looked at the man and asked calmly. "I like your expression very much." Huli narrowed her eyes slightly. "I just don't know if I like your strength as well." Yin Luofeng paused. "Whether or not I can make you like me, what does that have to do with me? If there's nothing else, don't disturb my cultivation. I want to fight you." Huli drew his sword and pointed it at Yin Luofeng. At this moment, there were already many disciples surrounding the room. When they saw Huli coming to cause trouble for Yin Luofeng, their eyes flashed with interest. "I'm busy." However, in the face of Huli's arrogance, Yin Luofeng merely replied with a single word. "What if I insist on fighting you?" Huli's eyes flashed with a dangerous glint as she raised the corners of her lips and asked. Yin Luofeng closed his eyes and no longer paid any attention to this annoying man. However, the colder Yin Luofeng's attitude towards him, the more excited he became. "Yin Luofeng, fight me. If you win, you can set any conditions you want," Huli said excitedly. "If I win, I want you to be my subordinate for 3 years and wait for my orders." Chapter 1238. Yin Luofeng slowly opened his eyes, and his devilish gaze landed on Huli. "You really want to fight me?" "That's right." Huli raised his chin. "If you don't agree today, I will pester you until you do." "All right." Yin Luofeng pondered for a moment. "If I win, I also want you to be loyal to me for 3 years. How about it?" Huli was stunned for a moment. Then he suddenly burst into laughter. "Interesting. This is really interesting." "All right, I promise you. As long as you can beat me, forget about being your subordinate for 3 years. What's wrong with 10 years? "All right," Yin Luofeng replied. "Don't forget what you said. If I win, you will be loyal to me for 10 years. Huli's laughter was suddenly blocked in his chest, choking him until he could not help but cough. His handsome face turned red. This woman really knew how to climb up a pole. He had only casually said it, and 3 years had become 10 years? But who asked him to bring it up? He could only grit his teeth and swallow it down. "All right, 10 years it is." Huli gritted his teeth and said, "Then when do we start fighting?" "Now, after the storm caused by Yao Mengqi." Another storm swept through the academy. The genius Huli, who was ranked 10th on the heaven list, was actually going to fight with a new student. Especially the bet between the two, whoever lost would have to be loyal to the other. This was simply unheard of. Of course, many of the academy's disciples thought that Huli was bullying Yin Luofeng. After all, with Yin Luofeng's strength as a saint spirit, it was impossible for him to be Huli's match. The martial arts arena was a boiling cauldron of voices, and the inside and outside were filled with people. On the stage of the martial arts arena, a young girl dressed in snow-white clothes exuded an evil aura. Her fine black hair fluttered without any wind, and she was peerlessly moving. In front of the young girl was a man of peerless elegance. The man's fox-like eyes contained a cunning light, and a smile appeared on his jade-like face. His eyes were filled with interest, as if Yin Luofeng, who was in front of him, was an interesting plaything. Senior brother Hu Li is very strong. This woman will definitely lose miserably. In the academy, senior brother Hu Li's beauty is obvious to all, and his strength is extraordinary. If I can marry such a man, I can die without regrets. The women's eyes were filled with red hearts as they stared unblinkingly at the man's perfect face. If they could become a woman by Hu Li's side, they would wake up laughing even in their dreams. Yin Luofeng. Hu Li raised his eyebrows and looked down at the young girl standing in front of him. Remember our bet. If I win, you will serve me for 3 years. Yin Luofeng narrowed his eyes. I'm afraid you won't have that chance. Boom. At this moment, both of their auras surged out at the same time, creating quite a storm in the arena. Huh? Hu Li laughed maniacally, his black hair dancing in the wind. Yin Luofeng. Do you believe me when I say that the winner of this battle will definitely be me? One was a strong cultivator who had already broken through to become a Saint King, while the other was a high-level Holy Spirit. Their strength could not be compared at all. Therefore, not only did Hu Li have such confidence, even the others felt that it was impossible for Yin Luofeng to win this battle. Yin Luofeng's eyes gradually became more serious. The difference between a Holy Spirit and a Saint King was not just a difference in level, but a difference in quality. However, she would not lose no matter what. Chapter 1239. Yin Luofeng. Take out your weapon. Hu Li looked at the empty-handed Yin Luofeng, and the corners of his lips curled up. I never fight with empty-handed people. Yin Luofeng did not hesitate, and took out his sword from his spatial ring and held it tightly in his hand. Your ruffians, what? Hu Li asked in surprise as he glanced at Yin Luofeng's left hand. Yin Luofeng smiled evilly. My left hand is enough to deal with you. The young girl's voice was extremely arrogant, but it also angered Hu Li. His long and narrow eyes were tinged with a mocking smile. Then don't blame me for not giving you a chance. As soon as he finished speaking, Hu Li's body leaped and shot towards Yin Luofeng like a bolt of lightning. It's over. Below the arena, and Zihao hurriedly covered his eyes, not daring to look at this cruel scene. No matter how strong Yin Luofeng was, he could not possibly be Hu Li's opponent. So, the ending was within everyone's expectations. Although senior brother Hu Li is ranked 10th on the Sky list, his speed is the fastest out of everyone here. Even the top few on the Heaven list would need to expend some effort to fight him. With just this speed, senior Hu Li can fight with a middle stage Saint King. Even a middle stage Saint King cannot escape from his attack, let alone Yin Luofeng. The crowd discussed animatedly as they looked at Yin Luofeng with sympathy. However, facing Hu Li, who was about to enter her, Yin Luofeng slowly closed her eyes. Everyone thought that she had been scared silly and did not even have the courage to look at Hu Li, let alone resist. No one knew that the current Yin Luofeng had become a world of her own. Back then, the scenes in the celestial spirit mirror flashed through her mind in a flash, causing her to become extremely calm. It was so calm that only the sound of the wind could be heard. What is she doing? In the arena, on the viewing platform, Mu Ran lowered his head in surprise and looked at Yin Luofeng, whose eyes were lightly closed. His eyes were filled with doubt. Ji Yin, the hall master of the beast-taming hall, fell silent. After a while, he said, if Hu Li wants to compete on the Heaven list, with his speed, even the 5th place might not be able to defeat him. Even if the opponent is stronger than him. To be honest, even I might not be able to capture all of Hu Li's movements. Because Hu Li did not want to compete on the Heaven list, after he reached the 10th place, there was no more movement. If I'm not wrong, Ji Yin paused and continued. She gave up on observing Hu Li's movements with her eyes and chose to use her ears to distinguish sounds. Mu Li's ears to distinguish sounds in a battle? He could not do such a dangerous thing. One had to admit that Yin Luofeng, this girl's, guts were not small. Muron, is this the little girl that Chen Yuqing recommended to you? Ji said. Ji Yin, Luo out, Ji Li. Yin, GG's, Ji Li Yin, Yin Luo Luo, of who Ji, said Li Ji of Yin Luofeng's attainments as a spiritualist are so high. Don't join in the fun. Muran, so what if I'm the hall master of the beast taming hall? Who set the rule that only beast taming disciples can exist in the beast taming hall? Anyway, I've taken a fancy to this girl. How about you trade a flame bloodline for her? I won't trade. Muran scoffed. Even if you trade a dragon and a phoenix for her, I won't trade. She's a good seedling. If you train her well, she'll be more precious than any treasure. Chapter 1240. Ji Yin pursed his lips, feeling very regretful in his heart. Why did this kind of seedling choose to go to a Spirit Master's Academy? And the outstanding disciples that the Spirit Master's Academy nurtured were all provided for the morning hall. Pity, truly a pity. Such a genius had missed him by a hair's breadth. Wind. The whistling sound grew louder and louder. Hu Li's expression was originally one of disapproval, but when she saw that Yin Luofeng had dodged her attack, shock flashed across her beautiful face. The surrounding crowd was stunned as well. They thought that Yin Luofeng would definitely be defeated in one move, but she'd actually dodged it? Their eyes must be playing tricks on them. How could Yin Luofeng have dodged Hu Li's attack? Everyone hurriedly rubbed their eyes and forced them open, but all they saw was the completely unharmed girl in white standing on the stage. This time, the girl simply tore off a piece of her sleeve and tied it over her eyes. The corners of her lips curled into an evil smile. That's enough. Let's continue. Those 3 months of training in the Sky Spirit realm weren't completely useless to her. For the people of the world, their eyes were extremely important. If they couldn't see the battle clearly, they would inevitably return in defeat. But for her, her eyes had already become a burden at this moment. It was very easy for the eyes to be confused by the scenery of the outside world, and what they saw might not be true. However, the ears would always be able to distinguish the true direction. Yin Luofeng. Hu Li narrowed her fox eyes slightly, and her smile was very sinister and cunning. You're different from anyone I've ever met, and the more you're like this, the more I want you to become my follower. After saying these words, Hu Li moved again. His figure was still as fast as lightning, and there were rows of afterimages following behind him. Yin Luofeng felt the whistling sound of the wind and leaned to the side, narrowly dodging Hu Li's attack. At the same time, the sword in her hand descended from the sky and chopped downwards. Boom! The stage was instantly chopped into two, and dust filled the air. Yin Luofeng quickly flashed behind Hu Li, and his long sword chopped downwards again. Hu Li sensed the threat behind him, and turned around, using his sword to block the longsword. Bang! The shock wave spread out from the two of them. It was so strong that the disciples near the arena were sent flying, falling to the ground in a sorry state. Yin Luofeng took 2 steps back, and a mouthful of blood came from her throat. She forcefully swallowed it down, and the smile on her lips contained a trace of coldness. Even if she had broken through Hu Li's speed, there was still a huge gap between the two of them. If this continued, she would definitely not be Hu Li's opponent. Similarly, Hu Li also took 2 steps back in the face of the storm. He shook his somewhat numb arm and narrowed his fox-like eyes. His gaze gradually turned solemn. It looked like he had underestimated this girl. Her strength was definitely not just that of a high-level holy spirit. On the viewing platform, Muran gazed at the 2 people below, and his brows knit together lightly. Ji Yin, who do you think will win between these two? Ji Yin went silent, and then he shook his head. If it was before the competition, I would definitely say it's a fool. There's no suspense between a Saint King and a Saint Spirit. But now, I notice that I'm slightly unable to see through it. Thinking of this, Ji Yin laughed self-deprecatingly. He had lived for so many years, yet he was unable to distinguish between a Saint Spirit and a Saint King. If word of this got out, many old fellows would probably laugh at him. The battle between the two of them attracted many onlookers. Chapter 1241. Wang Yizhi and his nephew were also standing in the crowd, glaring at Yin Luofeng viciously. This damn girl dared to attack me, and now she has offended Hu Li. Her good days are over. Wang Mujing gritted his teeth in hatred. He had thought that Yin Luofeng would be expelled from the steward's hall according to the school rules for beating up his uncle. Who would have thought that the hall master of the morning hall would actually defend a woman like Yin Luofeng? He even suggested that she would be exempted from punishment if she entered the earth roll within 5 days. He did not think much of it at first. Entering the earth roll within 5 days? How is that possible? A new student could never do that. However, contrary to everyone's expectations, Yin Luofeng challenged a genius on the earth roll in a single day and even defeated him. Moreover, her strength as a holy spirit was revealed to everyone. So what? Yin Luofeng could have challenged anyone, but she chose Hu Lin. Who didn't know that Hu Lin had a younger brother on the heaven roll? Just as he had expected, Hu Li immediately came to cause trouble for Yin Luofeng after finding out that her brother had matured. Ha ha ha! Wang Mujing could imagine Yin Luofeng's miserable ending and could not help but laugh out loud. His laughter was sinister and cruel. Yin Luofeng, you have to pay the price for being too arrogant. In the crowd, apart from Wang Yizhi and Zhehao, there was also an old man who was looking at Yin Luofeng anxiously. This old man was none other than the old man who had been in charge of the registration and had introduced Yin Luofeng to the other elders. An elder's disciple is in conflict with Hu Li. Logically speaking, I should go and tell the other elders, but the elders have recently been overwhelmed by a matter. If I let them worry about this matter, I'm afraid it will affect the progress of that matter. The old man wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Forget it. I'll take a look at the situation first. If Miss Yin is really in danger, I'll inform the elders in time. This disciple of the elders was really good at stirring up trouble. First, she beat up Wang Yizhi. Then she challenged a genius on the earth roll, causing a commotion. Now, she even accepted Hu Li's challenge. However, the old man did not expect Yin Luofeng to be a holy spirit. She really hid her strength well. The old man smiled helplessly. He didn't know what kind of uproar it would cause if the elders found out about this. Boom! On the arena, a storm was brewing. Yin Luofeng took another 2 steps back. She wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and stared at Hu Li with her deep black eyes. Hu Li was not as peerless as he had been before. He appeared to be in a rather sorry state, and his expression was one of extreme fury. Yin Luofeng, are you a holy spirit or not? How could a holy spirit unleash such power? And Zhehao was dumbfounded. He did not expect that Yin Luofeng would force Hu Li to such an extent. Suddenly, Hu Li laughed coldly. He propped himself up on the arena, and the aura around his body grew stronger and stronger. A storm spread out from his body, and it was so powerful that it made people feel extremely oppressed. Yin Luofeng, I have indeed underestimated you in the beginning. Now, I want to know if you will be able to receive this attack of mine. Not good. Mu Ran was shocked when he saw Hu Li's actions. Quick, stop him. Otherwise, the Yin girl will definitely not be able to withstand this attack. At the very least, she will be crippled. As soon as he finished speaking, his body shot towards Hu Li and Yin Luofeng like a bolt of lightning. Chapter 1242. The surrounding crowd could feel the surging power from Hu Li's body. They were so suppressed that they couldn't even utter a word. They could only stare dumbfounded at the 2 people in the arena. Mu Ran's expression became increasingly anxious. Unfortunately, it was too late. Just as he was about to reach Hu Li's power exploded and swept towards Yin Luofeng like a hurricane. Boom! A strong explosion resounded throughout the entire arena, so much so that the arena was blown into a pile of ruins. Mu Ran stopped in his tracks and stared in shock at the dust rising from the arena. A raging flame rose from his body, and his bloodshot eyes turned towards Hu Li. Hu Li, do you know how to control your strength? This little girl is someone I've taken a fancy to. How dare you kill her? Hu Li was also dumbfounded. He had thought that Yin Luofeng would be able to escape this calamity. Who would have thought that she would not be able to escape? How could this be? His original intention was not to kill this woman. He just did not want to lose to her. Miss Yun and Zaheo cried out anxiously. Two streams of tears flowed from the corners of his eyes. Miss, it's all our fault. We've dragged her down. In the beginning, if they hadn't offended Wang Mujing, Yin Luofeng wouldn't have become enemies with Wang Mujing. Wang Yiji wouldn't have made things difficult for her, and she wouldn't have beaten Wang Yiji up in public. In this way, the following incident would not have happened. For a moment, feelings of self-blame and guilt filled in Zaheo's heart, causing it to tremble. Ha ha ha. Wang Mujing laughed maniacally. His laughter was filled with madness. She's dead. She's finally dead. This woman has offended me. She won't have a good ending. When Zaheo heard Wang Mujing's laughter, his eyes became like a jackal's and a leopard's as he turned angrily towards Wang Mujing. Shut up. Wang Mujing sneered. Little trash, who are you yelling at? Without Yin Luofeng to support you, you're just a bunch of good-for-nothings. Ha ha ha. These words caused Zaheo's suppressed emotions to explode in an instant. He pounced towards Wang Mujing furiously and bit him on the shoulder. Ah! Wang Mujing screamed. Quick, help me chase this little bastard down. In an instant, the surrounding people rushed over to pull Zaheo away from Wang Mujing. However, Zaheo bit Wang Mujing's shoulder tightly and refused to let go. Little bastard! Wang Yiji's eyes turned cold, and he slapped his palm on Zaheo's shoulder. In an instant, Zaheo's body flew out like a kite with a broken string and crashed heavily into the crowd. At the same time, he tore off a piece of flesh from Wang Mujing's shoulder and blood kept flowing. Beat him. Beat this little bastard to death. Due to his relationship with Wang Yiji, Wang Mujing was often followed by a group of followers. Now that they heard the angry words, those followers quickly rushed forward and punched and kicked Zaheo, who was lying on the ground. Zaheo was in so much pain that he curled up into a ball, refusing to make a sound no matter what. Brother Zaheo! Tears welled up in the little lowly's eyes, but she didn't let them fall. She pushed through the crowd, wanting to rush in front of Zaheo. Unexpectedly, a foot reached out from the side and tripped her. Little thing, you'd better behave yourself. Wang Mujing pressed on his bleeding shoulder and walked to the little lowly. He lifted her up and smiled sinisterly. Zaheo is definitely going to die. Yin Luofeng is also dead. You'd better come with me. Chapter 1243. The little girl's face was filled with stubbornness. Her bright eyes were filled with resentment as she glared at Wang Mujing. You still dare to be stubborn. Slap. Wang Mujing raised his hand and slapped the little girl's face. In an instant, a blood-red mark appeared on the little girl's pink cheek. Even so, the little girl did not cry. Her bright eyes were fixed on Wang Mujing without fear. Young mistress. Zaheo's heart ached. His hands clenched into fists as he felt powerless. He had caused Yin Luofeng's death. He was unable to protect young mistress. What was the point of a useless person like him living? At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on the arena. No one paid any attention to Zaheo and the little girl. Even if they had paid attention, they would not have helped them in the arena. Smoke and dust scattered in all directions. Huli stared blankly at the ruins of the arena in front of him. He still could not believe that he had really killed that young girl. However, at this moment, the smoke and dust that had covered everyone's eyes gradually dissipated, revealing the scene above the ruins. They saw a beautiful young girl standing above the ruins. Her white robes were stained with dust, and part of her sleeve had been torn off. The young girl's arm was bleeding, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth. Her originally fair face was now somewhat dirty. The white cloth covering her eyes had also fallen off and floated in the breeze. In an instant, the crowd quietened down. Wang Mujing's maniacal laughter came to an abrupt halt. He rubbed his eyes in disbelief and stared in shock at the young girl standing above the ruins. She's not dead. This woman who should have died was actually still alive? Wang Mujing gritted his teeth. His eyes were filled with intense hatred as he stared fixedly at Yin Luofeng. If looks could kill, Yin Luofeng's body would have been riddled with holes, so you're still alive. Hu Li's heart finally calmed down. I knew that this move of mine would not be able to kill you. Yin Luofeng, you're very strong. I concede defeat. Admitted defeat? The crowd's eyes widened in shock. Hu Li, who was ranked 10th on the heaven list, admitted defeat? Remember your promise. Serve me loyally for 10 years. Yin Luofeng wiped away the blood at the corner of her mouth. Her gaze slowly swept downwards, and she saw Zaheo, who was surrounded and beaten up by those people, and the little lowly, who had a clear 5-fingered mark on her face. Wang Mujing grabbed the little lowly's body and took a few steps back. Yin Luofeng, don't come over. If you come over, I'll kill her. Yin Luofeng acted as though he hadn't heard Wang Mujing's words and continued walking towards him. I'm not joking with you. If you dare to take another step forward, I will really kill her. Wang Mujing gritted his teeth. He saw that Yin Luofeng did not show any signs of stopping. He instantly took out a dagger and placed it on the little lowly's neck. Miss! And Zaheo's heart almost skipped a beat. His eyes were filled with anger and anxiety. Wang Mujing, stop. If you dare to touch Miss, I won't let you off even if I become a ghost. The little lowly didn't have much of a reaction. She blinked her bright eyes and looked at Yin Luofeng without blinking. She was fine, that's great. If something really happened to her, Brother Zaheo and I would definitely regret it for the rest of our lives. Yin Luofeng, you forced me to do this. Chapter 1244. Wang Mujing gritted his teeth fiercely. He knew that Yin Luofeng would not let him go. Since that was the case, he would make the first move. Thinking of this, he raised the dagger in his hand and stabbed it fiercely towards the little girl's chest. Just as the dagger was about to stab in her chest, a strong pressure came from the front, causing his fingers to stiffen. The dagger could no longer move forward. Instantly, his eyes were filled with fear as he looked at Yin Luofeng with a pale face. At this moment, Yin Luofeng had already walked in front of the little girl. His slender fingers gently stroked her delicate face as he lowered his gaze and asked, "Does it hurt?" The little girl shook her head and said in a childish voice, "It doesn't hurt. Compared to Brother Zaheo, it doesn't hurt. Do you want to kill him?" Yin Luofeng continued to ask. The little girl was stunned. She looked at the pale Wang Mujing behind her and nodded. Yes, they bullied Brother Zaheo. I want to kill them. Her voice was still immature, but it was filled with determination. All right, I'll give you the sword. Go kill them. Yin Luofeng handed the sword in his hand to the little girl. Remember, don't show mercy to those who bully you. The little girl's hand trembled as she took the sword from Yin Luofeng's hand. She turned around and stabbed the tip of the sword towards Wang Mujing's chest. Jinger! Wang Yizhi shouted angrily. Yin Luofeng, you'll get what you deserve. You will definitely get what you deserve. As soon as Wang Yizhi finished speaking, the little girl's sword had already pierced Wang Mujing's chest. At this moment, she felt refreshed all over. It was something she had never felt before. So, killing an enemy would give her such a thrill. Wang Mujing's eyes widened as his body gradually fell to the ground. His eyes were filled with fear. Just now, he had wanted to dodge, but under Yin Luofeng's pressure, he couldn't even move a finger. He could only watch as the sword, which emitted a cold light, entered his chest. Everyone in the arena was dumbfounded. No one had expected Yin Luofeng to actually dare to kill someone on the spot. Those who are kind will be bullied by others. Yin Luofeng acted as if he did not see those people's shocked gazes. He lowered his gaze and said, "If you don't want to be bullied by others, you have to become strong. Kind people get bullied." The little girl nodded her head sensibly. From now on, I won't be bullied anymore. I have to protect myself and Brother Zaheo. And Zaheo was only her bodyguard, but he had accompanied her for many years. In her heart, he was already like family. Hearing the little lowly's tender voice, and Zaheo's emotions became somewhat complicated. In his heart, His young miss had always been naive and innocent. He would never let her worry about her livelihood, let alone let her come into contact with the evils of the human heart. No matter how hard and tired he would not let her suffer in the slightest, now that he thought about it. Was his way of thinking all along wrong? What if one day he left the young miss forever? How would the young miss, who had no ability to survive on the mainland? Sigh. Mu Ran smiled bitterly. This girl's temper is as fierce as what Chun Yuqing said. She is not willing to suffer any losses. But now, she's actually teaching a little girl how to kill people. Ji Yin said with some schadenfreude. Mu Ran, I won't fight with you over this girl. With her personality, she will definitely attract a lot of trouble. It's better for you to follow behind her and clean up. Oh, that's right. You have to help her solve the current situation first. Chapter 1245. Just as he finished speaking, a stern voice rang out from outside the noisy crowd. Get out of the way! Everyone get out of the way! After hearing this voice, everyone subconsciously opened up a path, allowing the armored people behind them to pass. Among those people, the leader was a middle-aged man with a serious expression. He slowly walked in front of Yin Luofeng and said expressionlessly, Yin Luofeng, you are extremely audacious. You dare to kill someone in public. Immediately, we will go to the penal court to be punished. Wait. Huli leaped and landed in front of Yin Luofeng when she saw that the people were about to take Yin Luofeng away. Yin Luofeng has already entered the Heaven List and is a disciple of the Heaven List. How dare the Steward's Hall capture her? Once she entered the Heaven List, her status would change greatly. Even the Steward's Hall leader would not be able to touch her. Lord Tianyu, you have to uphold justice for my nephew. Wang Yizhi reacted and quickly rushed to Meng Tianyu's feet. He said tearfully, my nephew died unjustly. You have to uphold justice for us. Meng Tianyu's eyes darkened, and he sneered at Yin Luofeng. So what if she defeated you? The Steward's Hall has the right to take her back. Even if we don't have the right to punish her, we can hand her over to the elders. Are you trying to say that a disciple of the Heaven List has more power than an elder? Furthermore, our academy has not recognized her as a disciple of the Heaven List. This meant that the academy had not recognized her, and she was not a disciple of the Heaven List. The Steward's Hall had the right to take her back. Huli narrowed her eyes and sneered as she stood in front of Yin Luofeng. It doesn't matter if you don't recognize her. I've been in the Heaven List for 3 to 5 years. I don't know if I have the right to make you go back based on my status. Meng Tianyu's eyes darkened. Huli, do you really want to make an enemy of the Steward's Hall? Make an enemy? Huli smiled and said sarcastically, Are you even worthy? In an instant, Meng Tianyu's expression changed. Just as he was about to speak, Mu Ran was already standing next to Yin Luofeng. Meng Tianyu, this Yin Luofeng is already a member of our morning hall. I'm afraid it won't be that easy for your Steward's Hall to capture a disciple of our morning hall. Mu Ran wore a faint smile on her face as she looked at Meng Tianyu with an indifferent gaze. Meng Tianyu's face darkened once more. Not only did Huli protect a mere Yin Luofeng, but even the hall master of the morning hall was biased towards her. Huli, Hall Master Mu Ran, I will go back and report to our hall master. Then, he will make a decision. Let's go. Meng Tianyu waved his hand and led a group of people from the Steward's Hall away. After Mu Ran saw Meng Tianyu leave, he retracted his gaze and smiled bitterly at Yin Luofeng. Did you really have to kill him on the spot? Can't you just bear with it? No. Yin Luofeng's words silenced Mu Ran. He shook his head helplessly, and the smile on his face became even more bitter. Moreover, he was the one who attacked first, threatening me with Aureliai's life. Aureliai? This name is really strange. Mu Ran was stunned for a moment, and his face was filled with speechlessness. The little lowly was also stunned. She weakly explained, My name is not Aureliai. My name is Ji Fei. And Zaheo, take her back first and let her recuperate from her injuries. Leave the rest to me. Yin Luofeng glanced at the little lowly, then turned to Nzaheo and spoke. and Ziheo crawled up from the ground, his face filled with guilt. I'm sorry, Miss Yin. We've dragged you down again. Chapter 1246. Brother Ziheo, let's go. The little girl pursed her lips slightly and looked at Yin Luophone with her big bright eyes. I will remember your words. In the future, I will not continue to be so weak. She looked at Yin Luophone one last time, turned around, and supported in Ziheo as they walked out, gradually disappearing from her sight. Do you need any help? Muran looked at Yin Luophone and asked with a bitter smile. No need. Yin Luophone gently stroked his chin as a dangerous light flashed across his slightly narrowed eyes. I can handle it myself. The elders in the academy were divided into two factions. Similarly, the elder's office was also divided into the east and the west. The elder's office, where Su Kong and the others were, was in the east. At this moment, a panicked figure appeared outside the elder's office. When he saw the people guarding the door, he ran over and said while panting, Quickly inform the elders, something has happened. Steward Jean, the elders are busy and have given the order that they will not see anyone who comes to disturb them. The guard at the door frowned slightly and refused the old man's request. The old man wiped the sweat from his forehead. Hurry up and inform the elders. Otherwise, it will really be too late. Tell the elders that something has happened to Miss Yun. When the guard saw the old man's panicked look, he thought for a moment and said, I will inform the elders, but whether they are willing to see you or not is not something I can decide. The atmosphere in the elder's office was very strict. Many elders sat upright, their faces filled with helplessness and worry. The people from the Continent Lord's mansion have just given the order for everyone above the Holy Spirit stage to encircle and kill the Ghost Emperor. Su Kong rubbed his forehead, feeling a headache coming on. It is said that those who had gone before were all killed by the Ghost Emperor. Ling Hai's expression was very ugly. We have been busy with that matter recently, yet there are still people who think that we are not free enough. Furthermore, we do not even know the Ghost Emperor's strength, and yet we are sending ourselves to their doorstep. Isn't that courting death? Those old fellows in the West Elder Hall have already agreed. Now, only we are left. Void, I think it's best if we don't get involved in this mess. Shuang frowned slightly as she tapped her finger on the table. After all, this Ghost Emperor managed to escape from the pursuit of so many people. He even grew to his current state. His fear is definitely beyond imagination. It would be great if the headmaster came back. Unfortunately, the headmaster has been gone for so many years, and there is still no news of his whereabouts. The expressions of the elders grew more and more worried. During the time that the headmaster wasn't around, there wasn't even a person in charge. Elders. Suddenly, a voice came from outside the door, causing Su Kong and the others to frown. Didn't you say that you're not allowed to disturb us if there's nothing wrong? Who allowed you to come in? Su Kong's face darkened as he scolded sternly. A layer of cold sweat appeared on the guard's forehead. Elders, Butler Jean is here to seek an audience. He said that Miss Yun is in danger. What? With a loud bang, Ling Hai smashed his fist on the table. He stood up angrily. My precious disciple is in danger? Who has the guts to lay a hand on my disciple? Let manager Jean in immediately. Yes, sir. After he finished speaking, the guard retreated. Not long after, the old man hurriedly rushed in from the door. In an instant, the gazes of the 5 elders all landed on the old man. Chapter 1247. What happened? Su Kong's expression darkened. What danger did Feng encounter? The old man looked at the 5 elders carefully. Elders, Miss Yun returned not long ago. However, Wang Yiji deliberately made things difficult for Miss Yun in order to avenge his nephew. Wang Yiji, that bastard again? Ling Hai's eyes were filled with anger. Why did Wang Yiji have the chance to cause trouble for my precious disciple? Didn't I arrange for Wang Yiji to go somewhere else? The old man wiped his sweat and continued. I don't know what happened either. The hall that Wang Yiji brought is where Miss Yin is. He is certain that Miss Yin did not apply for leave and wants to expel her from the academy. If Miss Yin does not want to leave, she must endure 100 lashes from him. Ling Hai clenched his fists tightly as he gritted his teeth. Wang Yizhi, who gave him the guts to hit my disciple? Shui Ying and the others stood up anxiously. How is Miss Yin? Did Wang Yizhi injure her? Wang Yizhi injured Yin Luofeng? The old man laughed bitterly when he heard this. Yin Luofeng was a Holy Spirit practitioner. How could Wang Yizhi possibly injure her? Elders, don't worry. Miss Yin is not injured. Instead, she injured Wang Yizhi. Hearing this, Shui Ying heaved a sigh of relief. She rubbed her chest and slowly exhaled. It's good that she's not injured. I was almost scared to death. Wang Yizhi, that bastard is really audacious. I'll settle the score with him later. What's next? Su Kong continued to ask. Wang Yizhi reported Miss Yin to the steward's hall. The people from the steward's hall wanted to punish Miss Yin. It was Hall Master Mu Ran who spoke up for Miss Yin. However, the people from the steward's hall thought that Miss Yin was at fault. In the end, they came to an agreement. If Miss Yin can make it to the earth roll within 5 days, they'll let her go. What? Ling Hai, who had just sat down and had yet to take a sip of tea to calm himself down, slammed the table and stood up when he heard this. Make it to the earth roll within 5 days? My disciple is quite talented. Unfortunately, she hasn't started cultivating yet. Aren't they forcing her? By the way, you said my disciple injured Wang Yizhi? As far as I know, Wang Yizhi is a venerable spiritualist. How did my disciple injure him? The old man wiped his sweat again. Miss Yin has already made it to the earth roll. Puff! Su Kong had just taken a sip of tea when he spat it out because of these words. Emptiness, who was sitting opposite him, was more unlucky. He was sprayed all over his face, and his face was filled with resentment. Did you just say that the Yin girl has charged up the earth roll? Shuang was stunned as she asked in disbelief. The old man nodded. She made it to the earth roll, but the person she defeated was Hu Lin, the brother of the heaven rolls Hu Li. Su Kong narrowed his eyes. Did Li take revenge for his brother and injure my disciple? He would never let off anyone who hurt his disciple. No. The old man shook his head and said, Hu Li challenged Miss Yin to a fight, but in the end, he admitted defeat. Admit defeat. The elders looked at each other, and the shock in their eyes deepened. Hu Li fought with Yin Luofeng, but admitted defeat? Could it be that Yin Luofeng was stronger than Hu Li? Steward Jean, hurry up and tell us what happened. Shuang frowned and continued to ask. Chapter 1248. Who was it that dared to touch our disciple? A cold light flashed across Shui Ying's eyes, and her voice was extremely cold. Elder Shui Ying, Yin Luofeng has 2 friends in the academy. Wang Mujing thought that Yin Luofeng had died in Hu Li's hands, so she injured Yin Luofeng's friend. Yin Luofeng wanted to settle the score with Wang Mujing, but who knew that Wang Mujing would capture her friend and use her friend's life to threaten him, so the old man didn't say anything else, but the 5 elders understood what had happened. Oomph! Ling Hai scoffed. Wang Mujing was courting death. She can't blame anyone else. My disciple did not do anything wrong. Could it be that the people from the duty hall are going to settle the score with my disciple? That's right. The elder nodded. The people from the duty hall are going to pursue the matter. That's not right. Shuang frowned slightly. My disciple defeated Hu Li and was able to enter the heaven list. Why would the people from the duty hall have the guts to look for her? The elder looked at the elders carefully. The people from the duty hall said that the academy will not recognize Miss Yun's identity. Ha ha! Ling Hai laughed maniacally. Since when did the duty hall have the right to make decisions in the academy? How dare they bully my disciple? I will make them pay the price. Boom! Ling Hai punched the wall, creating a huge hole in it. Immediately after, his figure rushed out of the hole. Let's go too. Shui Ying's beautiful eyes darkened. After all, I'm not dead yet, and someone dares to bully me. These people from the duty hall are too much. Just as the elder went to call for reinforcements, the people from the duty hall found Yin Luofeng again. This time, it was the leader of the duty hall's Wen. Perhaps it was because of Mu Ran and Hu Li, but they did not forcefully escort Yin Luofeng. Instead, they invited her over. When Hu Li and Mu Ran received the news, Yin Luofeng had already left with the people from the duty hall. At this moment, in the penal hall that was filled with torture devices, Zhuo sat high up on a black wooden chair. His expression was stern as he looked at the young girl below and said in a cold voice, "Yin Luofeng, do you know your crimes?" The girl's demonic aura was awe-inspiring as a smile appeared on her beautiful face. Her body was languid and evil as she lifted her eyes to look at Zhuo. "Your steward's hall invited me here as a guest. Is this the attitude of a guest? Not even a chair?" Zhuo's eyes sank, and he said in a cold voice, "Yin Luofeng, what kind of place do you take my duty hall to be? Let me tell you, today, you can only live if I want you to live. If I want you to die, you must die." Yin Luofeng lazily raised the corner of his lips. "How many gifts did Wang Yizhi give you?" Zhuo was stunned. His face was filled with anger, as if someone had seen through him. He shouted, "Yin Luofeng, my duty hall has always been impartial, let alone the fact that you're not a disciple of the heavenly role. Even if you're in the heavenly role, as long as you make a mistake, I have the right to punish you." The academy was a place that focused on geniuses. Therefore, as long as one entered the heaven ranking, his authority would be higher than the hall masters of the various halls. But there was one exception. That was, the academy was not allowed to kill fellow students, even if they were geniuses on the heaven roll. If a genius on the heaven roll made a mistake, the duty hall also had the right to punish them. Someone drag Yin Luofeng away and punish him severely with a branding iron. Yes, after Zhuo's words fell, two people immediately stepped forward and tried to stop Yin Luofeng's body. However, before the two of them could touch Yin Luofeng, there was a bang. A wave of energy surged out of her body and forced the two of them back a few steps. Chapter 1249. Get lost. The girl's thin lips parted slightly, her evil eyes sweeping over the two people she had pushed back. Her beautiful face was cold. "Yin Luofeng." Zhuo stood up angrily. "Did you think I invited you here just to be a guest? I just tricked you into coming to the criminal court. When you get here, you won't be able to call for help. No one can save you." Yin Luofeng raised her hand and pulled the iron torture chair to her side. She flicked her sleeves and sat down. She propped her head up with the back of her hand and looked at Zhuo with a faint smile. "Then do you think you can punish me?" Lazy, evil, cold, domineering. These four words could not be more suitable to describe the young girl today. Zhuo's eyes narrowed with anger. He slammed his palm on the table and stood up angrily. "Yin Luofeng, I'll show you now if I can punish you." In an instant, the power in Zhuo's body surged, and he quickly rushed towards Yin Luofeng. "Stop!" Mu Ran hurriedly rushed in from outside. When he saw Zhuo attack Yin Luofeng, his old face immediately became furious. His figure flashed, and he quickly rushed in front of Yin Luofeng, raising his hand to block Mu Ran's attack. Boom! The two palms collided, and Zhuo took a few steps back. His expression darkened and became hazy. "Mu Ran, I advise you to mind your own business." "Huh?" Mu Ran sneered and flicked his sleeves, standing in front of Yin Luofeng. "Then I'm really going to mind my own business." Zhuo sneered. "So you're going to protect the woman who committed the murder?" Although it was the little lowly who killed Wang Mujing, it was Yin Luofeng who ordered it. Wang Yizhi also put all the blame on Yin Luofeng. As for the little lowly, as long as Yin Luofeng was dead, wouldn't she be at his mercy? Zhuo, if Wang Mujing hadn't wanted to kill him first, he wouldn't have been killed. Everything has a cause and effect. Why do you put the blame on the young girl? Mu Ran flicked his sleeves, looking like a sage. "In my opinion, let's just forget about this. The Yin girl didn't do anything wrong." "Oof." Zhuo's eyes were gloomy. "If I don't punish her, and word gets out, people will think that our West Continent Academy has no rules. A life for a life, no matter if she's on the heaven roll or earth roll. Since you said that a murderer should pay with his life, and Wang Mujing was the one who attacked first. Is he not at fault? Mu Ran furrowed his brows and felt a little angry in his heart. You said Wang Mujing made the first move? Zuowen sneered. Then is she dead? She and that little girl didn't die. So what right does she have to kill Wang Mujing? Mu Ran took a deep breath. He decided not to waste any more words with Zuowen. He turned to look at Yin Luofeng. Yin girl, leave this place first. I'll take care of this for you. Yin Luofeng smiled devilishly and stood up lazily from her chair. Her lips curled into an angle as she looked at Zuowen with a smile that did not reach her eyes. Miran, he wants to kill you. Mu Ran was stunned and looked at Yin Luofeng in confusion. He wanted to kill Zuowen? What was going on? Since when did he want to kill him? Yin Luofeng continued to smile and said, he wanted to kill you a long time ago. You, Mu Ran. Zuo Ran flew into a rage and turned to Mu Ran angrily. You actually want to kill me? Then I'll kill you first. Let's see how you're going to kill me. Chapter 1250. Mu Ran was dumbfounded. Could he say that he was innocent? But Yin Luofeng did not give Mu Ran the chance to speak. She shrugged and continued. What you're doing is a little inhumane. Mu Ran only wanted to kill you. He didn't actually kill you. I think it's better for you to make peace. Yin Luofeng spoke with sincerity. No one could see any lies on her face. Make peace. Dream on. How could I give him a chance to kill me? Zuowen gritted his teeth. Mu Ran, you wanted to kill me. Even if the elders of the college stop me, I must kill you today. Yin Luofeng laughed. Her laughter was exceptionally clear in the quiet penal court. I was just joking just now, but... She paused, her eyes turning slightly. You also know that if someone wants to kill you, you have to strike first and not give them any chance to make a move. Why is it that when it comes to others, it changes? Zuowen's expression abruptly changed. Only now did he realize that Yin Luofeng had set a trap for him. Yin Luofeng. He roared and rushed towards Yin Luofeng again. Murderous intent surged from his body as if he wanted to kill the girl with one blow. Wang Yizhi appeared out of nowhere. His venomous eyes stared at Yin Luofeng, who was suffering from Zuowen's attack. There was a cold light in the corners of his eyes. Yin Luofeng, you kill my nephew. If I don't avenge him, I am not a man. Yin Luofeng looked coldly at Zuowen, who was closing in on her. Her expression did not change. Her beautiful face still had an evil smile. Stop. Boom. In an instant, an angry roar suddenly sounded. It was like a drumstick hitting Zuowen's chest. In an instant, his body was thrown into the air. Fresh blood flowed out of his mouth. He raised his terrified eyes and looked at the group of elders who were striding in from outside the door. His face turned from pale white to astonishment, and his eyes were filled with deep astonishment. Elder Su Kong, Elder Ling Hai. You, why are you here? Zuowen didn't know what was going on when he saw these people charging at him furiously. His mind buzzed, and he didn't understand how he had offended these elders. Ling Hai dashed forward and kicked Zuowen, who had just crawled up into the air. His face was very ugly, and his anger was overflowing. Zuowen, how dare you? Who allowed you to set up a private punishment in the steward's hall? Especially, he even dared to lay his hands on a weak girl? Zuowen was dumbfounded. He was just punishing a disciple. How did he attract these old fellows? Could it be that Huli went to invite them? Furthermore, the weak girl that Elder Ling Hai spoke of, was she really Yin Luofeng? If this woman was a weak woman, then there wouldn't be any evil women in this world. Thinking of this, Zuowen took a deep breath. He suppressed the panic in his heart and explained, Elders, listen to me. What Huli said is only his side of the story. Don't believe him. This woman dared to commit murder in public. She has committed a heinous crime and should be punished with death. Therefore, I am only punishing her according to the rules of the Academy. Elders, you will definitely investigate this matter and decide who is right and who is wrong. You won't be blinded by some treacherous people. The treacherous people that he spoke of were people like Yin Luofeng. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.